The laughter floats down from upstairs like a taunt, punctuated by the occasional shriek of delight that makes my shoulders tense. I adjust the tiny gears in front of me, pretending the sound doesn't twist something in my chest. Another game night I wasn't invited to. The basement workshop is my sanctuary, all smooth concrete and the comforting smell of metal and oil. My latest invention spreads across the workbench, a mechanized board game that responds to players' choices, creating unique story paths each time. I've spent months perfecting it, telling myself this will be the thing that finally makes them see me. Jennifer? Mom's voice carries down the stairs. We're having dessert if you want to join us. The casual afterthought in her tone makes me wince. I don't answer, focusing instead on calibrating the delicate spring mechanism that controls the game board's transformations. Above, chairs scrape across hardwood floors, and my sister Evelyn's distinctive laugh rings out again. My phone buzzes. A text from Deacon. How's the project coming? Still planning the big reveal next week? I type back quickly. Almost there. Just need to fine-tune the storytelling algorithms. More laughter spills down, followed by Mom's voice again. Oh, Evelyn, you always know exactly how to bring everyone together. My hands freeze over the circuitry. That's rich, considering Evelyn's the reason I stopped getting invited to these gatherings years ago. I discovered last month that she'd been telling everyone I found game nights childish and beneath me. A convenient lie that painted her as the fun sister and me as the cold, distant one. The truth? I've spent every Thursday night for the past 3 years listening to their joy from my workshop, wondering what it would take to be included. My father's deep voice rumbles through the ceiling, indistinct but warm. He only uses that tone with Evelyn. With me, it's always tinged with disappointment, like I'm a calculation that refuses to add up correctly. I lift the game board, testing its weight. It's beautiful. Brass and wood and tiny lights that pulse like heartbeats. Each piece is handcrafted, programmed to react to players' choices and weave their decisions into an evolving narrative. It's everything I am. Precision and creativity and countless hours of work, all wrapped in something meant to bring people together. The prototype's almost ready for next week's Inventor Showcase. I've already imagined their faces when they see it on display, when they finally understand that the daughter they dismissed as cold and antisocial created something magical, something that could transform family game nights everywhere. Footsteps creak on the stairs, and I quickly cover my work with a cloth. Mom appears, plate in hand, wearing that familiar expression of mild concern that never quite reaches her eyes. I brought you some cake, she says, setting it on a clear corner of my workbench. Evelyn made it, her famous chocolate truffle recipe. Thanks, I manage, though the word tastes bitter. Evelyn's famous recipe came from our grandmother's cookbook, the one Mom gave her without even asking if I might want it. You know, you could come up sometimes, Mom says, glancing around my workshop with barely concealed disapproval. Everyone would love to see you. The lie hangs between us, heavy as lead. I'm kind of in the middle of something, I say, gesturing vaguely at my covered project. Always working, she sighs. Well, don't stay up too late. She turns to leave, then pauses. Oh, Evelyn mentioned she might stop by tomorrow to borrow some tools. I told her it was fine. My stomach clenches. What? Mom, my tools are organized specifically for my work. She can't just... Jennifer, please. She's your sister. Can't you share just once? Before I can respond, she's gone, leaving me with a slice of cake I won't eat, and that familiar ache of being the difficult daughter. I wait until her footsteps fade before uncovering my invention. Something's wrong. My heart stops as I scan the workbench. The main control board is slightly askew, the backup drive missing. My project files, including the detailed blueprints I spent months perfecting, are gone from my laptop. With trembling fingers, I pull up my browser history. There, in the autofill, is a search I never made. How to submit invention proposals to Tomorrow's Tech Today. Tomorrow's Tech Today. The television show where inventors showcase their creations to millions. The show Evelyn mentioned applying to months ago, right before she started asking suspicious questions about my project. Upstairs, the laughter continues, but now it sounds different, darker, like the sound of something precious shattering beyond repair. I don't sleep. Instead, I spend the night piecing together all the times Evelyn asked about my project, each seemingly innocent question now sharp with intent. By morning, my hands shake from too much coffee and rage. The doorbell rings at exactly 9 a.m. Of course she's punctual. Evelyn's never been late for anything in her life. I open the door to find her perfect smile, her perfect outfit, her perfect lie ready. "Jenny, I was hoping you'd be up." She breezes past me, designer purse swinging. "Mom said I could borrow some tools?" The casual audacity steals my breath. I close the door slowly, counting to 3. Funny timing, isn't it? Right after my project files disappear, she doesn't miss a beat. "What do you mean?" "Don't." My voice comes out harder than I've ever let it before. "I know about Tomorrow's Tech Today. I saw the search history." A flicker crosses her face. Surprise, maybe fear, but it's gone instantly. "Oh, that. I was going to tell you. I've been developing this amazing concept for interactive board games, and stop lying." The words explode from me. Those are my blueprints, my invention, my life's work that you stole. Evelyn's smile falters, then reforms. "Jenny, you're being dramatic. I simply built on your basic idea, made it more marketable, more family-friendly. You know how you tend to overcomplicate things." The patronizing tone makes my vision blur. I grab my tablet, pull up the producer's email I found last night. "Really? Because according to this, you submitted my exact designs, down to the last line of code." "I can explain." "When?" I cut her off. "When were you going to explain? During the live broadcast next month? After you won? Or were you hoping I'd never find out?" She sets her purse down, smooths her skirt. Always composed, always in control. "Look, I did you a favor. You would have kept tinkering forever, never showing it to anyone. I'm giving your invention the platform it deserves." "You mean you're giving yourself the platform?" The pieces click together with sickening clarity. "That's why you've been asking about my progress, why you started coming down to the workshop more. You were planning this all along." "The producers loved the pitch," she says, like that justifies everything. "They're flying me to New York next week for pre-production meetings. This could be huge, Jennifer, for both of us." I laugh, and it sounds strange even to me. Both of us? You're presenting it as your sole invention, your breakthrough. I'll credit you as a consultant or something. She waves her hand dismissively. "But let's be realistic. You're not exactly TV material. You can barely handle family game night, let alone a live broadcast." "Because you told everyone I didn't want to be included." The words tear from my throat. Years of lies, and now this? Oh, please. Her perfect mask finally cracks, showing the contempt beneath. "You did that to yourself, always hiding down here with your projects, acting superior to everyone. I just made it easier for the family to accept what they already knew. You don't fit." The truth of her manipulation hits like a physical blow. Every excluded Thursday, every sympathetic look from Mom, every disappointed sigh from Dad, all carefully orchestrated by my sister. "Get out." My voice shakes. "Don't be childish." She picks up her purse. "Think about it. Once the show airs, once it's successful, none of this will matter. You'll thank me eventually. The only thing I'm thinking about is how to prove you stole my work." Something dangerous flashes in her eyes. That would be unwise. Mom and Dad have already seen my proposal. They're so proud, Jennifer. Would you really hurt them by turning this into some petty rivalry? The thread is clear. She's already positioned herself as the hero of this story. Any attempt to expose her would make me the jealous, unstable sister trying to sabotage her success. The show airs in 4 weeks, she continues, heading for the door. Don't ruin this for everyone. Oh, and I'll need those tools another time. Clearly, you're not in a sharing mood today. She leaves me standing in my workshop, surrounded by the gutted remains of my dream. My phone buzzes, a group text from Mom. Exciting news! Family gathering tonight to celebrate Evelyn's upcoming TV appearance. Jennifer, please try to make it this time. Your sister would love your support. I stare at the message until the screen goes dark, something cold and calculating taking root where hurt used to be. Evelyn wants a show? Fine. She'll get one she'll never forget. I sit at the breakfast table, watching Evelyn hold court. She's describing her creative process to our parents, each lie more elaborate than the last. My tea has gone cold, untouched. The breakthrough came when I realized the game needed to adapt to players' emotions, she says, stealing my exact words from months of research. It's about connection, really, bringing families together. Dad beams at her. That's my girl, always thinking bigger. I grip my mug tighter, remembering all the times he dismissed my ideas as impractical. Now he's nodding along as Evelyn explains my invention like she understands the first thing about adaptive algorithms or mechanical engineering. Jennifer? Mom's voice breaks through my thoughts. You've barely touched your breakfast. Not hungry. I push away from the table. Need to work. Work? Evelyn's laugh tinkles like broken glass. The invention's done, silly. You should relax, celebrate with us. The casual ownership of my creation makes something snap inside me. I turn back slowly. You're right. It is done. Every circuit, every line of code, every failed prototype that led to the final design, all done. By me. The table goes silent. Mom's fork freezes halfway to her mouth. Jennifer, Dad warns, using his "this isn't the time" voice. No, please, Evelyn says sweetly. Let her speak. She's obviously working through some feelings. The condescension in her tone crystallizes everything, every slight, every manipulation, every stolen moment. I walk to my workshop without another word, their murmured conversation following me down the stairs. My workbench is still a mess from Evelyn's theft, but among the scattered components, an idea takes shape. I pull out my original prototype, the one I built before streamlining the design. It's clunkier, with exposed gears and visible circuitry, but it contains something Evelyn doesn't know about. A failsafe. I power it up, watching the lights flicker to life. Every game piece has a tiny sensor that reads players' choices, feeding data to the main processor. But there's a secondary system, one I never documented in the stolen blueprints. It monitors for specific patterns, triggering alternate storylines if certain conditions are met. My phone buzzes. Gianna from work. Saw the press release about tomorrow's tech today. Your sister's game looks amazing. Why didn't you tell me? My hands shake as I type back. Not my story to tell. 3 dots appear, then, you okay? You've seemed off lately. I ignore it, focusing instead on the prototype. The show will want a dramatic demonstration, something to wow the audience. Evelyn will have to play the game live, prove it works. She doesn't know that every choice in the game creates a digital fingerprint, a unique signature that proves authorship. If I can modify the failsafe to recognize specific play patterns, Jennifer? Dad's voice startles me. He rarely comes down here. I quickly cover the prototype. What? He stands awkwardly at the bottom of the stairs, hands in his pockets. Your mother's worried about you. This tension with your sister. It needs to stop. Tension? I laugh bitterly. Is that what we're calling theft now? Don't be dramatic. He sighs, sounding tired. Evelyn has a gift for presenting ideas, making them accessible. You've always struggled with that. So that makes it okay for her to steal my work? She's not stealing. She's collaborating. That's what family does. He steps closer, expression softening. Remember when you were kids? How you used to finish each other's projects? No, she used to take credit for my projects. There's a difference. Jennifer, did you even look at her proposal? I cut him off. Really look at it? Because if you did, you'd see. I've seen enough. His voice hardens. Your sister has an opportunity here, a real chance at success. Don't let jealousy ruin that. The word hits like a slap. Jealousy. Of course, that's how they see it. Evelyn's perfectly crafted narrative at work again. Fine, I say quietly. You're right. It's a great opportunity. Relief crosses his face. That's my girl. I knew you'd understand. He leaves me alone with my prototype and my plans. Above, I hear Evelyn laugh, probably already rehearsing her television appearance. She thinks she knows my invention inside and out, thinks she can pass it off as her own without consequences. But she doesn't know about the failsafe, doesn't understand that every game tells a story, and sometimes the story is about justice. I power up the prototype again, fingers flying over the controls. 4 weeks until the show. 4 weeks to modify the failsafe, to ensure that when Evelyn plays my game in front of millions, the truth will finally have its moment in the spotlight. Let her laugh. Soon enough, everyone will know exactly who's been playing games with whom. The modified game board hums under my hands, each piece positioned exactly where it needs to be. I've been running simulations for hours, testing every possible combination of moves that could trigger the failsafe during Evelyn's demonstration. Your sister's interview is on. Mom calls down the stairs. I switch on the small TV in my workshop, stomach churning as Evelyn appears on the morning news show. She's wearing the pearl necklace Mom gave her for graduation, the one that was supposed to be passed down to the eldest daughter. The game adapts to players' emotional states, she explains, perfectly poised. It's like having an AI dungeon master who knows exactly how to challenge each player. The host leans forward, captivated. And you developed this entirely on your own? Well, Evelyn laughs modestly. I've always been fascinated by the intersection of technology and human connection. I grab my notebook, jotting down every technical term she uses incorrectly. Each mistake is a potential trigger point for the failsafe, a chance to expose her lack of understanding during the live demonstration. My phone lights up with a text from Gianna. Watching your sister right now. Something feels off about this whole thing. Before I can respond, another message appears. Those algorithms she's describing? They sound exactly like the project you showed me last month. My hands freeze over the keyboard. I'd forgotten about that conversation with Gianna, about showing her early sketches during lunch break. She could verify my authorship, prove I developed the concept first, but using her would mean dragging someone else into this mess, someone whose career could be affected by a public controversy. The TV host's voice pulls my attention back. And your family must be so proud. They're incredibly supportive, Evelyn beams, especially my sister. She's always been my biggest cheerleader. The blatant lie makes me laugh out loud, a harsh sound in the empty workshop. I turn off the TV and focus on the prototype, adjusting the sensitivity of the emotion-reading sensors. They need to be calibrated perfectly to detect the stress in Evelyn's voice when she tries to explain technical details she doesn't understand. Jennifer? Mom's voice, closer this time. She's standing at the bottom of the stairs. Why aren't you watching? Your sister mentioned you. I heard. I don't look up from my work. Hard to miss when someone's stealing your life on national television. Stop this. She steps closer, voice sharp. Your father and I are tired of your attitude. Evelyn's success doesn't diminish you. No, her theft diminishes me. I finally meet her eyes. Did you even read her proposal, the technical specifications, or did you just assume she was telling the truth because she always does? I read enough. Mom's face hardens. I read about bringing families together, about creating something meaningful. When's the last time you talked about your work that way? All you discuss are algorithms and circuits, because that's what makes it work. I stand up, frustrated. The emotional connection she's taking credit for, it happens because of those algorithms, because of months of coding and testing and now it's reaching people. Mom cuts in. Isn't that what matters? Your sister knows how to connect with an audience. She's making your technical work accessible. By stealing it, by elevating it. She sighs, looking around the workshop. You could learn from her, you know. Stop hiding down here with your machines. Start thinking about what people actually want. The casual dismissal of everything I am hits harder than expected. What people want, I repeat slowly. You mean what you want, what Evelyn wants. Has anyone ever asked what I want? Of course Mom stops, frowning at something on my workbench. Is that the prototype? I thought Evelyn had the final version. This is different, I say carefully. A backup. She picks up a game piece, examining it. These look more complicated than the ones Evelyn showed us. More exposed. That's because she doesn't understand how they work. I take the piece from her hand, but she will, on live television. Something in my tone makes Mom step back. Jennifer, whatever you're planning, I'm planning to support my sister, I say, echoing Evelyn's sweet tone. Isn't that what you want? She studies my face for a long moment. The show means everything to her, to this family. Don't ruin it with whatever this is. I wouldn't dream of it. After she leaves, I return to the prototype. The piece Mom handled glows softly, its sensors already recording the emotional data from our conversation. Every touch, every tension, every unspoken truth, the game remembers it all. I power up the simulation again, watching the pieces move according to my programming. Soon, Evelyn will play this game in front of millions. Soon, every hidden truth will come to light. And the best part? She'll trigger it herself, one move at a time. Rain drums against the coffee shop windows, matching my mood. Deacon sits across from me, his expression growing more concerned as I explain my plan. The cafe is nearly empty, but I still keep my voice low. Old habits. So, you've modified the failsafe? He says slowly. To what? Malfunction during her demonstration? Not malfunction. I wrap my hands around my cooling coffee. Reveal. Every time she makes a move that contradicts her claimed expertise, the game will highlight her mistakes. By the end, everyone will see she doesn't understand how it works. And humiliate her on national television. He doesn't phrase it as a question. She deserves it. Does she? Deacon leans forward. Or does some part of you just want to hurt her the way she hurt you? The truth in his words makes me flinch. You don't understand. This isn't just about the invention. It's about years of her, reshaping reality, making me the outsider in my own family. I get that, but Jennifer? He pauses, choosing his words carefully. I've known you since college. You're brilliant, driven, passionate about your work. But this isn't you. Maybe it should be. I stare out at the rain. Maybe if I'd fought back sooner, stood up for myself more. Or maybe you'd have become exactly what she painted you as, the bitter, jealous sister. Lightning flashes outside, throwing harsh shadows across the cafe. So I should just let her win? Let her take everything I've worked for? No. Deacon pulls out his phone, scrolls through something. But there might be another way. Look at this. He shows me an email thread, Correspondence between him and a patent lawyer. My throat tightens. You didn't. I made some inquiries, hypothetically. He sets the phone down. You have documentation, early prototypes, witness development stages. If you wanted to fight this legally, she'd still win. The words taste bitter. She has our parents convinced. The media loves her. By the time any legal case resolved, the damage would be done. Maybe, but at least you'd be fighting clean. Clean? I laughed sharply. Was it clean when she stole my work? When she spent years poisoning my relationship with our parents? When she... Jennifer. Deacon reaches across the table, touches my hand. Listen to yourself. You're talking about deliberately destroying your sister on live television. What happens after? To your family? To you? I don't care. Yes, you do. That's the whole point. He squeezes my hand. You care so much it's eating you alive, but this plan, it won't give you what you really want. And what's that? Recognition, validation, your family's understanding. He sits back. All this will do is confirm every story Evelyn's told about you. The truth of it hits hard. In trying to expose her game, I'm playing right into it, becoming exactly what she's always claimed I am. My phone buzzes. A text from Gianna. Need to talk. Found something in the patent database about your sister's invention. See? Deacon nods at my phone. There are other ways. People who know the truth. People who can help you fight this properly. It's not enough. I stand up abruptly, gathering my things. The show's in 2 weeks. A legal battle would take months, years maybe. By then, she'll have everything she wanted. Jennifer, thanks for the coffee, I cut him off, and the advice, but I need to do this my way. I step out into the rain, letting it soak through my jacket. My phone buzzes again. Another message from Gianna, then one from Mom. Evelyn's pre-show interview tomorrow. Family dinner after. Please be there. Lightning splits the sky again, and in that brief, brilliant moment, everything crystallizes. Deacon's right. I care too much. But maybe that's not a weakness. Maybe it's exactly what I need. Because Evelyn doesn't care. Not about the invention, not about the family, not about anything except winning. And that's why my original plan won't work. Public humiliation? She'd spin it, play the victim, come out stronger. No. If I want real justice, I need to beat her at her own game. Use her weapons, emotion, connection, family, against her. I pull out my phone, text Gianna back. Let's talk tomorrow morning. Then I message Mom. I'll be at dinner. Tell Evelyn I want to help with her demonstration. Let her think I've surrendered. Let her believe she's won. Because now I understand. The best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a smile, right before the ground disappears beneath your feet. The television studio buzzes with pre-show energy, techs darting around with clipboards and headsets. I stand in the shadows of the soundstage, watching Evelyn charm the production team during her rehearsal. The emotional mapping is revolutionary, she explains to Shane, the host, gesturing at my invention. Each player's choices create a unique narrative fingerprint. My fingers curl around the USB drive in my pocket. One simple upload would activate the modified failsafe, expose her lies. But Gianna's words from this morning echo in my head. The patent records show preliminary filings in your name. We can stop this legally. Jennifer, Evelyn spots me, waves me over with practiced enthusiasm. Come meet everyone. My sister's been so supportive of the project. Shane turns, flashing his camera-ready smile. The mysterious sister. Evelyn's told us you've been helping behind the scenes. Oh, yes. I match Evelyn's sweet tone. I know exactly how everything works. Evelyn's smile flickers for a fraction of a second. Jenny's always been good with technical details. Maybe she should join the demonstration, Shane suggests. Add a family element? Oh, I don't think, Evelyn starts. I'd love to. I meet her eyes. After all, who knows the game better than family? Before she can respond, a producer calls Shane away. The moment we're alone, Evelyn's smile vanishes. What are you doing here? She hisses. Supporting my sister. Isn't that what you wanted? Don't play games with me. Isn't that exactly what we should be doing? I gesture at the game board. Playing games? She grabs my arm, pulls me behind a set piece. Listen carefully. Mom told me about your little workshop project. Whatever you're planning, it won't work. I've already had the technical team verify everything. The game works perfectly. Of course it does. I built it. No one will believe that. Her voice turned sickeningly sweet. Poor Jennifer, always so jealous of her sister's success, always trying to take credit for others' achievements. Mom and Dad are worried about you, you know. They think you might need help. The implied threat lands like a physical blow. She's already planted the seeds, already prepared her defense. Any attempt to expose her will make me look unstable, vindictive. Ms. Evelyn, a tech approaches with a tablet. We need to verify some specifications about the emotional algorithm. Of course. Evelyn's perfect smile returns. Jennifer was just leaving. I walk away, hands shaking. Near the exit, I spot Gianna waiting. She waves me over, expression grave. I've got the patent paperwork ready, she whispers. One phone call and we can... It's not enough. I watch Evelyn fumble through technical questions. She's thought of everything. Any legal challenge will take too long, and she's already positioned me as the unstable sister. Then what's your plan? I pull out my phone, show her the modified code. During the demonstration, when she fails to explain how it works, Jennifer, no. Gianna grabs my wrist. That's not justice. That's revenge. It won't fix anything. It'll show everyone who she really is. Will it? She looks at me hard. Or will it show them exactly who she says you are? Before I can respond, Shane's voice booms across the studio. Places everyone. Full rehearsal in 5. I have to go, I tell Gianna, pulling away. Wait. She hands me a business card. Patent lawyer, just think about it. Please? I stuff the card in my pocket next to the USB drive. On stage, Evelyn practices her introduction, radiant under the lights. She's always been comfortable in the spotlight, probably because she spent years pushing others into shadows. And for tomorrow's live demonstration, Shane announces, we'll have a special guest player. Evelyn's sister, Jennifer, will join us to showcase this revolutionary game. Evelyn's head snaps toward me, real fear finally cracking through her perfect mask. She knows I could expose her, reveal her theft to millions. The power should feel good. It doesn't, because Gianna's right. Revenge won't fix this. But maybe there's another way, a better way to use tomorrow's demonstration. I touch the USB drive one last time, then let my hand fall away. Evelyn wants to play games? Fine. But this time, we'll play by my rules, and my rules just changed. The studio lights burn hot against my skin as Shane introduces us to the live audience. Evelyn sits across the game board from me, her smile brittle under the makeup. Our parents watch from the front row, beaming with pride. At her, always at her. Today's demonstration will show how the game adapts to players' emotional states, Shane announces. A revolutionary breakthrough by rising star inventor Evelyn. The audience applauds. I focus on the game board between us, its brass pieces gleaming. Each one contains sensors I built, code I wrote, dreams I poured into circuits and silicon. Shall we begin? Shane asks. Evelyn nods, reaching for her first piece. Her hands shake slightly. She knows enough about the game to be dangerous, but not enough to truly understand it, not enough to know what I've done. The game powers up, lights pulsing in patterns only I fully comprehend. Our first few moves are simple, setting up the story. But then Shane asks the question I've been waiting for. Evelyn, can you explain how the emotional mapping actually works? She launches into her rehearsed speech about connection and family, carefully avoiding technical details. But the game is already reading her stress levels, adjusting its response. Fascinating, Shane says. And the algorithmic processing? Perhaps, I cut in, voice steady. We should demonstrate rather than explain. Evelyn shoots me a warning look. I ignore it, placing my next piece deliberately. The board responds, creating a story path about two sisters, one always in shadow, one always in light. Oh my, Shane leans forward. The narrative seems quite personal. The game reflects players' true emotions, I say, watching Evelyn's face. Their authentic selves. She moves her piece quickly, trying to redirect the story. But she doesn't understand the deeper patterns, doesn't see how each choice reveals more truth. The technical architecture, I continue, is actually quite elegant. Each sensor measures micro-expressions, vocal stress patterns, subtle tells that betray our real feelings. Yes, Evelyn stammers. That's exactly how I designed it. Show us, I challenge softly. The audience goes quiet. Even Shane seems to sense the tension crackling between us. Evelyn reaches for another piece, but her hand freezes. The game is creating a story about theft now, about lies and broken trust, about a family blind to the truth. She glances at our parents, at the cameras, at her perfect world starting to crack. There seems to be a malfunction. No malfunction, I say. The game is working exactly as designed. By me. The words hang in the air. In the front row, Mom's smile falters. Dad sits up straighter. What do you mean? Shane asks. I turn to face the cameras directly. Every piece of this game, every circuit, every line of code, every story pathway, I created it. I can prove it, not through revenge or public humiliation, but through the truth hidden in the game itself. Jennifer, Evelyn warns. Each player's moves create a unique signature, I continue, a technical fingerprint that proves who truly understands the system. Would you like to see yours, Evelyn? Her face goes pale. The game board displays her pattern, hesitant, uncertain, revealing her surface-level knowledge. Then it shows mine, deep, complex, intimate understanding of every component. The patent records, I say quietly, will confirm everything, as will the original prototypes, the documentation, the witnesses. Cut to commercial, Evelyn demands, but the producers are too captivated to respond. I place my final piece, the game's lights pulse, telling the true story at last, not through malicious code or engineered failure, but through simple, irrefutable truth. I didn't come here for revenge, I tell her, loud enough for everyone to hear. I came to take back what's mine, not through your methods, lies, and manipulation, but through the very technology you tried to steal. The game board glows brighter, each piece illuminating years of work, of passion, of quiet dedication, while she took the spotlight. Our parents stare at the display, finally seeing the daughter they'd overlooked for so long. The game, I finish softly, doesn't lie, neither do I. Evelyn stands abruptly, knocking pieces aside. But it's too late. The truth is out, captured on camera, proven through technology she never bothered to truly understand. That's quite a demonstration, Shane manages finally. Perhaps not the one we expected, but I stand too, surprisingly calm. No, it's exactly the demonstration this game was designed for, because sometimes the most important stories are the ones that need to be told. The studio erupts in chaos, producers shouting, audience murmuring, our parents frozen in shock. But I keep my eyes on Evelyn as her carefully constructed world crumbles around her. She wanted a show. She got one. Just not the one she expected. The studio's green room feels too small for all the unspoken words hanging in the air. Mom sits rigid on the leather couch. Dad paces by the window. And Evelyn, perfect, polished Evelyn, stares at her reflection in the dark television screen. "How long?" Mom finally asks. "How long have you been stealing your sister's work?" Evelyn flinches. "I didn't. Don't." Dad's voice cracks like a whip. "We saw the evidence, the patents, the code, everything." I stand by the door, watching my sister's carefully constructed world continue to unravel. It should feel triumphant. Instead, I just feel tired. "I tried to tell you," I say quietly. "Every time I showed you my projects, tried to explain my work, but you only saw what Evelyn wanted you to see." "Because she made it accessible," Mom starts. But the excuse sounds hollow even to her now. "She made it? Made it what?" I step forward. "Palatable? Acceptable? Everything I created wasn't good enough until she claimed it as her own." Evelyn turns from the screen, tears smearing her perfect makeup. "You don't understand. I had to be the successful one, the one who made something of herself. Without that, what am I?" "You're my sister." The words surprise even me. That should have been enough? A knock at the door makes us all jump. Shane enters, looking uncomfortable. "The producers want to know if we're continuing with the segment." Before anyone can respond, I walk to my game board, still sitting on the coffee table. "Yes, but this time, we play for real. All of us." "Jennifer," Dad starts. "Sit down." I power up the board, watching the familiar lights dance. It's time we all saw the truth. They hesitate, then one by one take their places around the table. I distribute the pieces, each one containing years of work, of hope, of pain. The game reads emotions, I explain, meeting each of their eyes. Not just surface feelings, but deeper patterns. The stories we tell ourselves, the lies we believe. The first moves are tentative. The board responds, weaving our choices into a narrative about family, about expectations, about the weight of being seen or overlooked. "Every time I succeeded," Evelyn whispers, moving her piece, "I was terrified you'd outshine me. You always were the brilliant one." The game shifts, revealing her fear, her desperate need for validation. Mom's hand shakes as she takes her turn. "I thought," she swallows hard, "I thought pushing you would make you more like your sister, more normal." I finish. The board pulses, telling a story of conformity and rebellion. Dad's piece creates patterns of regret, of opportunities missed while chasing someone else's dreams. The game weaves it all together, our pain, our jealousy, our love twisted by expectations. "I never wanted to hurt you," Evelyn says softly. I didn't know how to be special next to you. You created impossible things. I only knew how to sell them." "You could have asked." I place my final piece. "We could have worked together, really worked together." The board glows brighter, showing us what could have been. Two sisters combining their strengths instead of fighting over spotlight. "Can we?" Mom wipes her eyes. "Can we start over?" "No." I power down the game, but we can start from here, with the truth. Shane clears his throat from the doorway. The network wants to do a follow-up segment about the real inventor. I look at Evelyn, see the fear in her eyes. Fear of exposure, of consequences, of losing everything she built on lies. "Tell them," I say, "that the game was a collaboration, a sister with vision, a sister with technical brilliance, both necessary, both valuable." Evelyn's head snaps up. "After everything I did, I'm not doing it for you." I meet her gaze. "I'm doing it because I'm tired of games. Real innovation comes from connection, not competition. That's what this was always about. The tension in the room shifts, something brittle becoming bendable. Not broken, not fixed, but changing. Besides, I add, gathering my things, I have other inventions to work on, real ones, under my own name. I leave them there, stepping out into the studio's hallway where Deacon and Gianna wait. Behind me, I hear Mom call my name, hear Evelyn's heels on the floor, hear the future rushing up to meet us all. But for the first time, I don't turn back. I've spent too long living in shadows of others' making. It's time to step into my own light. After all, that's what the game was really about. Not winning or losing, but finding your own way to shine.
Hi there, I'm Eileen. Right after my surgery, I came home to find my car gone. And my sister? She just smiled and said, "You weren't using it anyway." That moment, it was just the start. Turns out, she'd been using my name for loans, credit cards, even car insurance, all behind my back. And my parents? They knew, they excused it. Said I was overreacting. Said it was just family. But how do you fight back when your whole family's in on the lie? And how far would they go if you finally said no? I came home expecting silence, not betrayal. The hospital had discharged me that morning. Thyroid surgery, outpatient, nothing glamorous. I was groggy but upright, still in my post-op sweats with gauze along my neck. My neighbor, Mrs. Carter, dropped me off. She offered to walk me up, but I lied and said I was fine. I wasn't. The apartment was colder than I remembered. No flowers. No welcome back card on the counter, just stale air and unopened mail. I stood still for a second, letting my body remember what home was supposed to feel like. Then I reached for my keys, out of muscle memory more than anything. The hook by the door was empty. I blinked. Maybe I left them in the hospital bag. I checked the side pocket. Nothing. A tight pulse started building in the center of my chest. I opened the hall closet. Nope. Then I turned toward the garage. The click of the door unlocking sounded loud in the stillness. I pulled it open and stared at the vacant spot where my Subaru usually sat. Gone. At first, I thought it had been towed, but that didn't make sense. My HOA hadn't sent any notice. No citations. The garage door had been closed the entire time. I stepped outside, scanning the quiet cul-de-sac. All the neighbors' cars were parked in their usual places. Nothing looked disturbed. Nothing stolen. Except mine. The cold from the floor started to creep up through my socks. I backed into the kitchen, grabbed my phone with shaky fingers, and hit Marla. She picked up on the third ring, laughing about something in the background. "Hey, what's up?" I cut to the point. "Where's my car?" There was a pause, then a loud sip, followed by, "Oh yeah, I took it. You weren't using it anyway." Silence on my end. She kept going, light as ever. "Joni had practice. I didn't think you'd mind. You were out of it, right?" "You didn't think to ask?" My voice came out lower than I expected. "I figured it was fine. I mean, family borrows stuff. Relax." That word, relax, hit like an elbow to the ribs. "I was in surgery, Marla, not on vacation." "Exactly," she said, like it proved her point. "So you weren't driving." I ended the call without saying goodbye. I didn't even realize I'd sat down on the kitchen floor until my back touched the cabinets. My hands were clammy. My chest was tight. And for the first time since the surgery, I felt something stronger than painkillers. Disbelief. Later that night, I opened Instagram. Don't ask me why. I should have known better. There she was. Marla had posted a boomerang of Joni in my car, twisting in the front seat with oversized sunglasses and a milkshake. The caption? "Cheer mom life, #blessed." But that wasn't the worst part. The previous post was a photo of me in the hospital bed. Eyes shut, oxygen still in my nose, taken from the foot of my bed without me knowing. The caption read, "Holding down the fort while big sis heals #family first #sacrifice." The likes rolled in. "You're such a good sister." "Joni is lucky to have you." I wish my family was like this. I felt sick. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling until the room blurred. Did they even think of me as a person anymore? Or just a backup plan? At some point, I turned off all the lights. sat on the bedroom floor in silence. My breath came uneven, like my lungs couldn't keep up. It wasn't just about the car, it was the entitlement, the assumption that my life was open access just because I was quiet, reliable. People don't steal from strangers. They steal from the ones who won't fight back. I whispered into the dark. Did they ever actually take care of me, or did they just take? No one answered, not even my reflection in the window. The room smelled like antiseptic and winter air. My body was healing. My trust? That was something else entirely. The worst part wasn't that my car was gone. It was that she smiled like I should be grateful. Sleep didn't come easy after that night. Not because of the pain, my stitches barely pulled now, but because everything in me felt invaded, like my life had been rearranged without my permission, and no one even thought I'd notice. Around 2 a.m., I gave up pretending I could rest. The street outside was quiet, the kind of silence that made my thoughts louder. I got out of bed, pulled on a hoodie, and padded to the kitchen where my laptop still sat charging. A part of me already knew something wasn't right. The way Marla smiled, the confidence in her tone. That wasn't someone who just borrowed a car. That was someone who knew exactly how far she'd gone. I opened the DMV site. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Just curiosity, I told myself, just making sure. I typed in my plate number, then my VIN. The screen loaded slowly, one bar at a time, and then it hit me. Line holder. Rapid Pawn and Auto Loans lien date. February 11th, 2025. Owner. Eileen S. Kravitz. I stared at the screen, blinking. I read it again. And again. My name was still there, but now it was attached to a collateral agreement. That's not borrowing. That's pawning. That's intentional. I called the number listed. It rang twice. Then a tired voice answered, "Yeah, Rapid Pawn. After hours line." "I think someone transferred my car title under my name without permission," I said, voice shaky. The guy didn't sound surprised. "What's the name on file?" I told him. A pause. Then, "Yeah, that came through last week. Eileen S. Kravitz. Brought in the car, Idaho, and signed docs. All good on our end." He didn't know I was Eileen. My mouth went dry. "Can I see those documents?" "Sure. Send me an email from the registered account and we'll send a scan." I hung up, heart pounding, and typed out a request faster than I thought my hands could move. 10 minutes later, a PDF landed in my inbox. There it was, a contract, a signature. My signature, almost. It was close. Too close, but cleaner, straighter. Like someone had practiced. Like someone had traced me. "Proof of ID provided," it said. Attached was a scan of my actual driver's license. I stared at that copy, trying to breathe, trying to remember how this was even possible. And then I did, last summer, printer jam at the library. I needed to upload my ID for a background check at work. Marla had been with me. She'd offered to help. "Just email it to yourself and print it from mine," she said, like it was no big deal. I hadn't thought twice, but now I was seeing it. That was the start of the paper trail. Sick to my stomach, I clicked open another tab. Credit Karma. I hadn't checked my credit in months. No reason to. I barely spent. I lived simple. The dashboard took a second to load. And then, Nebula Rewards Visa, opened, July 2024. Balance, $1,926.34. Status, past due, 30-plus days. Account holder, Eileen S. Kravitz. Billing address, 2129 Briar Hollow, Ard. Marla's house. My breath stilled. I clicked through the statements, streaming subscriptions, online shopping, something called Bounce Heaven Rentals, a kid's party place. She wasn't just using my car. She was living a double life, with my credit. This wasn't a moment. It was a method. I sat there frozen, bathed in the blue light of the screen, while my cat rubbed against my shin for attention I couldn't give. I didn't cry. Not yet. I was past tears. Past anger, even. I was entering something else, some space beyond betrayal where the only thing louder than shock is clarity. My voice came out quiet, hoarse. She didn't just borrow my car, she borrowed my life. My brain flicked back to a birthday dinner years ago. My 33rd. Marla hadn't gotten me a card. She'd shown up late with Joni and said, "Hey, I hate to ask, but can you spot me $300? School stuff. I swear I'll pay you next week." Of course I did. I always did. That was the first lie. I just hadn't recognized it as one back then. Now, sitting at my kitchen table in the middle of the night, staring at digital proof of how far this had gone, I knew better. I wasn't overreacting. I was uncovering a pattern. By the time Saturday rolled around, I was emotionally hollow, but physically better. The bruising on my neck had started to fade, the stitches itched less, and the surgical glue flaked like old regret. Joni's sleepover had been planned months ago, before all of this, before I knew my sister was capable of fraud. I'd forgotten about it until Marla texted, "Still good for tonight? She's got her overnight bag." For a second I considered canceling. I had every right to, but Joni wasn't the problem. She was just 12, smart, sweet, too observant for her own good, and I didn't want to punish her for her mother's decisions. So I said yes. I borrowed my coworker Dana's car, she lived one floor below, and picked Joni up around 4:30. The kid came bounding out in pink sneakers and glitter lip gloss, waving like we were headed to a birthday party. The first 10 minutes of the drive were all school gossip, and which teacher had a weird laugh. I just nodded, my hands tight on the steering wheel, waiting for it. The mention. And it came. "Mom said your car's in the shop," Joni chirped, unwrapping a granola bar. "But she also said you probably don't feel like driving anyway, so it worked out." I glanced over. "She said that?" "Yeah. She told Grandma that too, that she's just helping while you're sick." I gripped the wheel tighter. "Did your mom say why she didn't ask me first?" Joni thought for a second. "She said family doesn't always have to ask. That you'd get it. That you always do." That last line sounded too rehearsed for a kid to invent. We rode the rest of the way in silence, the kind that settles between the seats and stretches like fog. Later that night, after Joni had showered and curled up on the couch with a Disney movie, I called my mom. She answered on speaker, which she always did now, half out of convenience, half out of nosiness. "Hi, sweetheart. How's Joni doing?" "She's fine," I said flatly. "But that's not why I'm calling." "Oh?" Her voice had that cautious lilt, the kind she used when she knew something was coming, but hoped smiling through it would fix it. "I found out Marla pawned my car, Mom, with forged documents. She used my ID and signature. She didn't just borrow it." There was a pause. Then, "Well, honey, your sister's been juggling a lot. Joni's in activities every day. The bills add up." I blinked. "Are you defending her?" "No, I'm just saying, we've all leaned on each other. We helped you when you were getting started." "You mean when I was 22 and still working 2 jobs while covering rent for both of us?" "Honey, don't be dramatic. It's just a car." Just a car. I felt something inside me snap like a rubber band stretched too thin. "That car was mine. It was in my name. You think it's okay for her to steal just because we're family?" "She didn't steal. She borrowed." "Borrowing requires consent." Velma sighed. "Look, maybe it wasn't the best choice, but we're family. Things aren't always black and white." I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted metal. "Then stop acting like I owe her a life sentence for being born first." She hung up before I could say anything else. I sat at the kitchen counter, lit only by the microwave clock. Joni had fallen asleep in the living room. I could hear the soft hum of animated voices and her rhythmic breathing. Peaceful, untouched. I opened my laptop. There, in a folder marked Personal, I started a spreadsheet. Date, amount, reason, outcome. 2019, covered Marla's rent, $900, never repaid. 2020, Joni's birthday bike, $220, no thanks. 2022, Mom's fridge broke, $480. Later found out it didn't. Line after line, I wrote down every memory I had once convinced myself to forget. It wasn't revenge, it was documentation. A breadcrumb trail for my own clarity. I whispered, "It's just a car? Then why does it feel like I was stolen too?" The numbers didn't lie. Neither did the pattern. If I was overreacting, why did the math finally make sense? The spreadsheet stayed open on my screen long after I stopped typing. I wasn't adding numbers anymore. I was staring through them. The kind of stare that isn't about seeing, but about absorbing the reality you've ignored for too long. That Sunday, my parents invited me for dinner. Part of me wanted to decline, to fake a migraine or blame recovery, but I showed up anyway. Maybe I needed to confirm what I already suspected. Maybe I was testing whether the betrayal was a fluke or a family sport. I arrived just before 5. The house smelled like pot roast and rosemary. Velma's way of saying, nothing's wrong, without ever saying it. Marla was already there, barefoot in the living room with a glass of white wine, laughing at something Joni said. No one brought up the car. No one mentioned the pawn shop, or the forged signature, or the fact that they'd all gone silent for days after I found out. It was like walking into a theater mid-play. Everyone already memorized their lines, pretending mine didn't matter. As I took off my coat in the kitchen, something caught my eye. A key ring hanging by the pantry door. Familiar. Bright blue fob, slight chip on the edge. My spare. "Dad," I called into the hallway, "is that my car key?" He appeared around the corner, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Yeah, Marla needed it. You were recovering. Figured it'd save time." I stared at him. "That wasn't your call to make." Dennis blinked, then shrugged like I'd commented on the weather. "She's your sister. We thought you'd be okay with it." I opened my mouth, but Velma swooped in. Her voice sweetened like overripe fruit. "Let's not turn this into a thing, Eileen. Sit, eat, everyone's hungry." I sat, but the food tasted like paper. Halfway through dinner, I put my fork down. "Did you know she pawned it?" Marla barely looked up. "God, you're still on that?" Velma's wine glass clinked softly as she set it down. "It's not like she drove it across the border, sweetheart. She needed help. That's what family does." "Without asking?" "She knew you wouldn't say no." I turned to Marla. "Did you think I'd find out?" Marla took a sip. "Eventually, but honestly, you're blowing this way out of proportion. It's just a car." My jaw clenched. "No, it's a boundary you stomped on, and now you're acting like I should apologize for noticing." Velma leaned in slightly. "You've always been more delicate, Eileen. Let's not escalate this." There it was, that word. Delicate. Not sensitive, not thoughtful, not even calm. Just delicate. Like I was too fragile to function. Like any resistance from me was some nervous breakdown in disguise. I chewed that word the rest of dinner. Didn't swallow it. That night, after dropping Joni back home, I texted someone I hadn't talked to in months. "Sophie." "Hey," I typed. "I'm sorry I let them push you away. You were right." She replied in under a minute. "Still here. You didn't push me. They did. What happened?" Flashback hit like a slap. Sophie telling me 2 years ago, "Marla doesn't ask. She assumes. That's not love. That's use." Back then, Velma had called Sophie a little too invested in my life, told me she was stirring tension. I had pulled away, chose quiet, chose loyalty over truth. Now I saw what Sophie had seen all along. Back home, I opened my inbox, created a new draft. Subject, boundary. One sentence. Don't use anything with my name on it again. Not my key, not my kindness. I didn't hit send, not yet, but I saved it. Something shifted. Not loud, not violent, but permanent. They didn't steal my car. They stole my voice, and I'm just now getting it back. By the time the weekend came, my inbox was flooded with junk mail, delivery alerts, and digital coupons I never signed up for. I was halfway through deleting them when one email stopped me cold. Subject, your Zenith auto insurance policy confirmation. I didn't remember opening a policy. Inside the message was a warm corporate greeting, thanking me for enrolling in coverage for a 2021 Dodge Grand Caravan. I didn't own a Dodge anything. Under policyholder, it read, Eileen S. Kravitz, my name, my full legal name. Again. I felt that punch in the chest all over again. Like I was back at the hospital, waking up groggy, trusting everyone to do right by me. I called the number listed. A woman named Gina picked up. Friendly, Midwest accent. Yes, we processed that policy online. We have the SSN, your driver's license, the registered email, all matched. Can you tell me the address on file? She read it. It wasn't mine. It was Marla's. I barely remembered hanging up. I just stood there, staring at the microwave clock like it could fix this. It wasn't even about the car anymore. This was my identity. And she was wearing it like a borrowed coat. I didn't text. I didn't give her a heads up. I called. Marla picked up on the third ring. Hey, what now? You opened a new insurance policy in my name? A pause. Then laughter. Oh my God, again with this? You really need to chill. It's insurance, Eileen. It's not like I bought a house in your name. You didn't ask. You don't even drive that much. I figured that's called fraud. Her tone sharpened. Family doesn't press charges. I could hear Joni laughing in the background. A sitcom played from the TV. Or do you think you're better than us now? She added. I took a slow breath. No, I finally understand that I deserve better. She hung up, and I didn't call back. That night I sat on my couch, scrolling mindlessly, trying to distract myself when a text came in from Lena, my cousin. Hey, everything okay? Mom said you've been kinda off since surgery. Then one from Aunt Dorothy. Praying for your mental clarity, sweet girl. You're loved even when you're not yourself. I blinked at the screen. My hands started shaking, not from sadness, from fury. They were reframing the narrative, turning me into the unstable one, again. Velma hadn't just dismissed my pain at dinner. She was now feeding it to the entire family, spoonful by spoonful, garnished with concern. That was her trick, always had been. Soft lies served with sweet tones. She's going through a lot. She's just sensitive. She means well, but she overthinks things. It was character assassination with a smile. And the worst part? It worked. Because I'd spent years being polite, forgiving, dull enough that any hint of fire now looked like a meltdown. I stared at my phone for a full minute before opening another tab on my browser. Asheville Family Law Attorneys. I found one with quiet reviews. No flashy slogans, just facts. I dialed the number. My voice was calm. My spine wasn't. Hi, I need to speak to someone about repeated misuse of my personal information. The receptionist asked, Are you referring to fraud? Yes, I said. By my sister. She paused. Has this happened more than once? Yes, I said again. And I'm done letting it slide. I hung up, walked to the kitchen, poured water, no wine, no tears, just resolve. I opened my drafts folder and reread the email I hadn't sent to Marla. The one about boundaries. The one I thought was enough. But this time, I wouldn't just say no. This time, the boundary wasn't emotional. It was legal. By the following Thursday, I had it in my hands. A folder. A real one. Not a Google Drive file or a shared note, but a thick manila folder. The kind that feels heavier than it should. The kind with weight beyond the paper inside. Its cover was stamped with the name of the law office in a faded blue ink, but it might as well have been branded with every betrayal I'd endured in silence. Inside were months of careful documentation. Printouts, statements, screenshots. Each page a brick in the wall I was finally building between me and them. Every transaction I never made. Every email sent under my name but not by my hand. Every time someone said I was overreacting or just being dramatic. Those dismissals were in there too, coded in the evidence I'd collected. I carried years of silence into that building. Cartwright Law, second floor. No music in the waiting room. Just the slow, repetitive tick of a cheap plastic clock mounted above the door. I remember that clock clearly. It ticked like it was mocking me, measuring the weight of time I'd spent not speaking up. I sat stiffly in the waiting chair, gripping the folder like it might try to slip away from me. My palms were damp, my back ached from tension, but I didn't loosen my grip. The receptionist, a woman with a tidy bun and kind eyes that didn't ask questions, called my name. I followed her down a short hallway lined with framed certificates and legal accolades. We reached a modest office. No frills, just a desk, a few bookshelves, and a man behind the desk who looked exactly how I imagined someone named Mr. Cartwright would look. Tweed blazer, wire-frame reading glasses low on his nose, a clean desk with only a notepad and a legal pad beside it. No small talk, no how are you or what brings you in. Just a slight nod and a hand extended toward the folder I was still gripping like a lifeline. He sat, opened it and started reading. Page by page he flipped, skimmed, paused, made occasional notes in the margins with a ballpoint pen. After a while he murmured, more to himself than to me. This is good, chronological, detailed, even includes IP matches. You've been very thorough. I answered without hesitation. I had to be. He glanced up at me briefly, not with sympathy, but with something else. A quiet acknowledgement, like he'd seen this pattern before, like he already knew the type of people I was up against. You've been exploited, he said calmly, systematically, and they counted on your silence. I nodded. My hands were still, jaw locked. I wasn't crying anymore. That phase had passed. So, I asked, voice quieter than I expected, do I have a case? He looked up again. No hesitation. It's airtight. That night, I sat on the floor of my living room, legs crossed under me, surrounded by papers. Insurance claims I didn't recognize. Credit card statements showing purchases in cities I'd never visited. Loan documents I'd never signed. All of it, fanned out like a morbid jigsaw puzzle. The blue light from my laptop screen lit the room. I scrolled through archived emails. Years' worth. Some flagged, some still unread. There, a receipt for a mattress I never ordered, shipped to Marla's address. An online furniture set. A Walmart Plus subscription. It was all there. Not just fraud. Not just identity theft. She hadn't borrowed pieces of my life. She'd constructed her own with them. Used my name as scaffolding. I checked my credit score. It had dropped 112 points. One of my oldest cards, a backup card I rarely touched, had been maxed and was now in collections. I hadn't even known. My hands felt like ice, but my teeth were clenched so tightly it gave me a headache. I opened a new Word document. At the top, I typed, "Cease and desist, Eileen S. Kravitz." I didn't stop writing. The keys clicked furiously under my fingers, filling the silence. I wrote until I'd listed every account number, every stolen transaction, every shipping address that wasn't mine but was used in my name. I didn't just write one letter. I wrote two. One was addressed to Marla, the other to Velma, because one had committed the fraud, but the other had enabled it, pretended not to see, made excuses, looked away when it suited her. That's betrayal, too. The next morning, gray light filled the sky. It had rained sometime during the night, and everything looked softer, quieter. I drove across town in silence. No music, no calls. Just the steady hum of the engine and the sealed envelope on the passenger seat. When I got to my parents' house, I didn't park in the driveway. I didn't ring the bell. I walked up to the porch, placed the envelope carefully on the bench, and walked back to my car without looking behind me. They didn't deserve to see my face. Not anymore. Back home, I took the second envelope, the one for Marla, and placed it in my mailbox, flagged for certified delivery. I clicked "Notify me when delivered" on the USPS site and shut the browser window. Then I made chamomile tea, sat on the couch. Clementine, my cat, curled up beside me like she always did when something in the air shifted. She knew. Animals always do. I breathed deeply, finally able to exhale without the weight of dread in my chest. For the first time in weeks, my body didn't hurt. Not from the surgery, not from the stress, not from holding it all in. I wasn't waiting for a phone call or apology. I wasn't bracing for someone to justify what they did or try to gaslight me into thinking it wasn't that bad. They had always told me that love meant not making waves, that family meant forgiveness, even when it was undeserved. But they drowned me in silence and expectation. Now I was the one drawing the boundary. I was done treading water. I leaned back, let the warmth of the tea settle in my chest, and whispered to the empty room, "I'm not angry, I'm done." No calls came, no text messages, no panic, just silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel like rejection. It felt like peace. They had taken so much, time, money, trust, but not this. This line in the sand? It was mine. The silence held for 4 days. 4 days of stillness, of no calls, no texts, no half-hearted apologies wrapped in concern. Just the kind of hollow quiet that comes not from remorse but calculation. I recognized it. Then on the 5th day it arrived, not as a phone call, not even as a message typed out in haste, but as a card. Real paper, heavy stock, cream-colored with slightly frayed edges, as if handled too many times before being dropped into the mailbox. Inside, written in Velma's tight slanted cursive, were 6 words: "Sunday dinner, family reset, 6 p.m. No salutation. No, we miss you. No acknowledgement of what had been said or done. Just an order disguised as an invitation. A reset. As if everything that happened could be filed under misunderstanding. As if all it would take was one meal to erase a cease and desist. 20 years of gaslighting, and a digital paper trail thicker than Velma's Thanksgiving gravy. I stared at the card for a full minute before placing it face down on the counter. I already knew what it meant. This wasn't peace. This wasn't even a truce. It was damage control. They weren't inviting me to heal. They were calling me back to formation, and they assumed I'd obey. Sunday arrived cold and sharp, the sky a pale blue stretched thin over bare trees. I dressed carefully. Navy slacks, a gray cashmere sweater. No jewelry, no makeup beyond concealer and lip balm. Neutral, unprovoking. My version of armor. The kind you wear when you're expected to perform civility under siege. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly the same. It always did. A little too neat, like someone had walked through just minutes before fluffing pillows and straightening curtains to make sure it looked presentable. Velma's standard. Inside, everything was curated to project normalcy. The table was dressed to impress. Wine glasses shined under dim lighting, cloth napkins folded into perfect triangles, and a roast sat steaming on a silver tray at the center of the table, like it had been waiting for a Better Homes and Gardens shoot. It was all performance. Marla greeted me at the door with a smirk, eyes scanning me like a TSA agent. She leaned in and kissed my cheek like we hadn't exchanged legal documents the week before. Dennis gave me a slight nod, just enough to say, "I'm here," not enough to say he cared. Joni didn't say a word. She hovered near the hallway entrance, arms crossed, expression tight. Velma swept in from the kitchen, her apron neatly tied, her voice forced cheerful. "Let's eat while it's hot." We sat, we chewed, in silence so brittle it might have cracked under a whisper. I waited, gave them a chance to speak first. They didn't take it, so I did. "Did you even read the letter?" Forks paused mid-motion. Marla didn't lift her eyes. Dennis focused hard on his plate. Velma blinked slowly, then exhaled like I'd knocked over a vase. "You're really going to burn down this family over a few bills?" Marla said, casually vicious, like she was asking about a parking ticket. Velma followed up with a sigh that could have iced a glass of tea. "We thought this was just a phase, that you'd cool off." There it was, the old narrative, that my anger was a passing storm, something hormonal, temporary, unreasonable. "I see," I said calmly, setting my fork down. "So that's why you told Aunt Laura I was seeing a psychiatrist for paranoia?" Velma didn't flinch. "You've been acting unpredictable." Unpredictable. The go-to word for any woman who stopped saying yes. Marla chimed in, tone laced with syrup and spite. "Honestly, you're scaring Joni." I looked across the table. Joni was still staring at her plate, her bottom lip trembling. "She's scared," I said gently, "because you told her I was dangerous. Not because I am." Silence. But it wasn't empty. It was full of guilt, of fear, of the weight of truth no one wanted to carry. They didn't deny it. They didn't defend it. They didn't say a single word. I didn't stay for dessert. That night, while Joni was in the guest bathroom, the water running, the hum of the shower drowning out the world, she left her tablet on the kitchen island, unlocked. I walked past it at first, then paused. The screen was still lit. A notification blinked across the top. Group chat, Kravitz Core. My hand moved before my brain could stop it. A single swipe, just one. I didn't mean to open it, but I did. And what I found wasn't a conversation. It was a blueprint, a playbook, a real-time dissection of my resistance. Marla. "She thinks a cease and desist will scare us." Velma. "Let her throw her tantrum. She'll come back, she always does." Dennis. "We raised her too soft." Marla again. "She's acting like she's Oprah just because she filed some papers." I stared at the screen until the glow dimmed and shut off. Then I turned on my laptop. 20 pages. Screenshots, timestamps, chat history. All of it printed in black and white. I didn't annotate it. Didn't write a cover letter. Just one thing on the front page, in thick black Sharpie. "This is why I'm done." Before the sun rose, I drove across town. The streets were dark and still. The only sounds were the distant hum of early traffic and the faint buzz of street lamps overhead. I pulled up in front of Velma's house, got out, slid the envelope into her mailbox, closed the lid. I didn't leave a note, no signature, no message explaining why. because it wasn't about getting them to understand anymore. It was about removing their ability to pretend they didn't know. They never thought I'd fight back. Now they're not just stunned I did. They're scared I might win. The week that followed was quiet, not peaceful, just unnaturally still. No texts, no calls, not even a snide comment from one of the cousins who usually made it their job to check in through vague Facebook replies. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel like resolution, just a pause. The eye of a storm. I knew better than to think it was over. The winds had shifted direction, not disappeared. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, the doorbell rang. Joni. She stood on my porch with her backpack slung over one shoulder, her sneakers untied, and a sheepish look that didn't belong on a 10-year-old's face. Hi, she said. Mom said she had a dentist thing, asked if you could watch me. The message had come from Marla earlier, short and vague. No apology, just a request. I said yes, not for Marla's sake, but because Joni was the only person in that house who hadn't weaponized her relationship with me. Joni curled up on the couch while I made popcorn. Cartoons buzzed from the television, something bright and loud that didn't quite match the heavy air in the room. Her hair was damp, probably from gym class, and she wrapped herself in my throw blanket like she was trying to disappear. Midway through her snack, she said it quietly, like a secret she wasn't sure she was supposed to keep. Mom said not to tell you she used your name again. I froze, not visibly. My hand stayed in my lap, but my stomach dropped. My pulse pounded in my teeth. She said it's easier if you don't know, Joni added, eyes still on the screen. There it was. The truth, from the one person who hadn't learned yet how to twist it. She also said not to talk about the phone, or the iPad, or the movie thing. What movie thing? I asked, keeping my voice calm. The account, Netflix or Hulu or something. It has your name on it. I thought it was a gift. That last word hit like a gut punch. Gift. Like she believed I had given her mother permission to keep taking pieces of my identity, wrapping them up as generosity. Joni's voice cracked. Was it not? I leaned in and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. No, sweetie, it wasn't. She blinked slowly. Oh, and that was it. She turned back to the television, a cartoon fox yelling about friendship or some other innocent thing. I didn't press. I didn't need to. I stepped into the hallway, where I let myself exhale. My lungs worked overtime, struggling to keep up with the pressure that had ballooned in my chest. It wasn't just about stolen money anymore, or the accounts, or even the lies. It was about the rot. The slow poison they had started feeding Joni, the way they folded her into their games and covered it with sugar. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to pretend I didn't know what I had to do. But by sunrise, I did. At 10 a.m., I drove to my parents' house. No text, no warning, no performance. Pamela opened the door in slippers, her expression surprised. You didn't say you were coming. I don't need permission anymore. I stepped inside. Marla sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Dennis was on the couch, half asleep, the TV muted but still playing. No one looked guilty, just irritated that I'd arrived without notice. I know what you told Joni, I said, standing in the middle of the room. Marla didn't even look up. She talks too much. She tells the truth, I said. That's more than I can say for you. Dennis mumbled something I didn't catch. I didn't ask him to repeat it. I stepped forward and placed a thick envelope on the table. This one wasn't symbolic. It was documentation, explicit, dated. If I see one more charge, one more subscription, one more dollar tied to my name, I will take this to court. No hesitation, no guilt. Pamela stood, folding her arms. You wouldn't do that to your own sister. My voice didn't waver. She already did it to me. I'm just finishing what she started. No one argued, no yelling, just a silence that said they knew I wasn't bluffing. I left without slamming the door. Outside, the sunlight felt different, warm and heavy, like something had lifted. I took a long breath, not to steady myself, but to feel something again. Something that belonged to me. By the time I got home, my phone buzzed. Joni. I told the truth. Are you mad? I stared at the message, then typed back slowly. No, I'm proud of you. No emoji, no extra words, just the truth. They say blood is thicker than water. But gasoline is thicker too. And I wasn't the one holding the match. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped pretending it still connected us. A month passed. Not in a rush. Not in silence. Just naturally. Like when winter thaws and you don't even notice the ice melting until the birds start singing again. The letter came on a Tuesday morning. Certified. Stamped. Sealed in the kind of envelope that used to make my hands shake. But not this time. I sliced it open with a butter knife from the kitchen drawer, sat at my tiny breakfast table and read slowly, line by line. The insurance policy? Canceled. The fraudulent credit card? Closed. The court? Accepted the cease and desist order as valid and enforceable. My name was mine again. No apology. No acknowledgement from anyone involved, just paperwork and quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I just inhaled, exhaled, and felt something loosen in my chest I didn't realize was still tight. Later that weekend, I walked to the farmer's market in downtown Asheville. My new place was smaller, but with tall windows and light that didn't ask questions. I had a little corner bookshelf now, a teal rug, and a second-hand armchair I picked up for $40 that fit my body like it had been waiting for me. At the market, I bought a bundle of lavender from a girl who reminded me of Joni, all freckles and nervous smiles. A golden retriever licked an ice cream cone out of a toddler's hand while her parents laughed. There was a man playing guitar on the corner, and even though he was off-key, people dropped coins in his case anyway. Nobody knew me here. Nobody whispered about me, pitied me, or expected anything except a smile or a dollar or a moment of patience at the register. It didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like permission. Back home, I reorganized some boxes in the hallway closet and came across an old shoebox labeled Family. I sat cross-legged on the living room rug and opened it slowly. Photos. My 5th grade school picture with the crooked bangs. A birthday card from Dad that said, "Proud of you," in thick pen. A crayon drawing Joni had made of us holding hands, smiling. I didn't throw anything away, but I didn't keep them close either. I put the lid back on and set the box on the highest shelf, high enough that I'd have to want it badly to pull it down again. Some memories aren't weights, but they're not wings either. That night, I journaled for the first time in weeks. You weren't overreacting, I wrote. You were the only one reacting at all. You weren't too sensitive. You were surrounded by people who refused to feel. You weren't difficult. You were honest. And then, finally, you weren't the problem. You were the one who said something. I closed the notebook, set it beside my tea, and watched the sun start to dip below the Blue Ridge skyline. No fireworks, no dramatic ending, just warm light stretching long across the hardwood floor. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. No one controlled me anymore. Not through guilt, not through silence. Some people spend their lives waiting for an apology that never comes. I stopped waiting. I chose peace instead. Some families teach you love. Mine taught me boundaries. And for that, I'm finally free. Before I let you go, I want to share something. Not just as someone who lived through this, but as someone who finally walked out on the other side. If you're watching this and any part of it felt familiar, maybe not the car or the credit cards, but the feeling of being used, dismissed, or made to feel too much for simply setting boundaries, I want you to know this. You're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're just finally tired of carrying what was never yours to begin with. Family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, about trust. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who expect you to stay silent just so they can stay comfortable. I didn't get justice through revenge. I found peace through truth. And once you choose peace, the kind that doesn't require explanation, no one can take that from you. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone close just to protect your sanity? Or have you ever been called too sensitive for standing up for yourself? Drop a 1 inch in the comments if this story hits something real for you. Or tell me where you're watching from. I read every message, and your stories matter too. And hey, if this video meant something to you or gave you strength today, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. We have more real, raw, and powerful stories coming your way. Because sometimes healing starts with knowing you're not the only one. Stay strong, stay kind, and above all, stay true to you. Hi, I'm Raylene. My parents gave me an ultimatum. Show up to my golden brother's wedding or get cut off completely. But that was just the beginning. They didn't want me there to celebrate. They wanted me quiet, invisible, obedient. What they didn't know was, I wasn't coming back to fit in. I came to uncover the truth. A fake fiancé, a family that turned its back, and a secret they trusted a stranger with, instead of their own daughter. How do you survive a family that only loves you when you're silent? I was halfway through revising a budget proposal when my father's name lit up my phone for the 5th time. I didn't need to pick up to know what it was about. Gavin's wedding. Again. I let the phone vibrate across the glass surface of my desk, its slick modernity a stark contrast to the chaos it signaled. For a year, I'd kept my distance. Denver gave me space, structure, peace. But my family had a way of slipping through cracks I thought I'd sealed. When the buzzing finally stopped, it was replaced by a sharp ding, an email. I glanced down. The subject line made my stomach tighten. Your presence is expected. Final notice. I opened it. Cold legal language greeted me. Attendance at Gavin's wedding is non-negotiable. Failure to comply will result in revocation of your inheritance. Consider this your final opportunity to demonstrate family loyalty. They didn't even try to hide it behind pleasantries. It wasn't an invitation. It was a threat. I leaned back in my chair, heart steady but heavy. The absurdity wasn't in the threat, it was in the assumption. They still believed I needed something from them. I didn't. Still, I stared at the message longer than I meant to. Then came the second hit. A forwarded voicemail from my HR manager. I clicked it. Hi, this is Cynthia, Raylene's mother. I'm calling because she's refusing to come home, and we're concerned. Could someone please talk to her about taking some time off? This is a family emergency. My blood ran cold. She'd crossed the line from guilt-tripping to professional sabotage. Calling my job? Who the hell does that? The rage didn't boil. It calcified. I wasn't a teenager sneaking out of the house anymore. I was a 34-year-old woman with a 6-figure salary and a resume they never acknowledged. But that didn't matter to them, because Gavin, their golden boy, was getting married, and I was the only loose thread in their perfect tapestry. I opened my closet and pulled out my diploma. Summa cum laude, data science, University of Chicago. Still hidden behind coats like a secret. My eyes drifted to the calendar on the wall. The wedding week was marked in red, angry ink. I remembered what Mom once told me after I won a regional science fair. Don't outshine your brother, sweetie. It makes him feel small. She'd said it like it was reasonable, like it was my fault for being visible. I shut my laptop, opened a private browser, and booked a first-class ticket to Franklin. Not because they demanded it, not because I wanted to be part of Gavin's big day, but because I knew something was off. They wanted me there to stay quiet. I was going back, to see, not to belong. The drive from the airport into Franklin was lined with dogwoods in full bloom. Everything looked postcard perfect, exactly how they wanted it. I didn't expect a welcome committee, but I wasn't prepared for how casual my arrival would be. The front door opened before I could knock. My mother, cordless phone on one shoulder, clipboard in hand, glanced at me like I was the mail. Raylene, good. Put your bags in the laundry room and check the list on the fridge, she said, barely pausing before walking away mid-sentence. I didn't get a hug. I didn't even get eye contact. Inside, the house had been overtaken by soft pastels, faux gold accents, and those annoyingly inspirational cursive signs. Love is patient, love is kind. Funny, no one here practiced either. A half-hour later, while I was quietly folding programs on the back porch, Mom announced in front of aunts and second cousins, Raylene's helping with logistics. She's been so generous with her time. No mention of bridesmaid, not even a seat assignment at the rehearsal dinner. Verity smirked. Gavin said nothing. I had become staff. Later that afternoon, while cleaning fingerprints off mason jars, I checked my phone and saw a Facebook post from my father. So proud of Gavin. Send your love his way during this special time. Some people sadly chose not to support him, but love always wins. I didn't reply. I just screenshotted it. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years DM'd me, "Why are you being so selfish? Gavin deserves happiness. Don't ruin it." That night, I walked past the old hallway where our family photos used to hang. Gavin's most improved tennis player plaque still shone under the hallway light. My debate trophies, mathletes plaques, my scholarship award, gone. Still in a dusty box, last I checked. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. Instead, I helped hang banners, tied bows, counted candles. But as I watched Verity on the patio posing for her sunset selfies, something about her didn't add up. Too perfect, too rehearsed. That night, while the others were asleep, I sat on the guest bed with my laptop, opened an incognito window, and typed her name. What I found didn't match her story. The loading bar crawled across my screen as the page refreshed. I was deep in it now, 2 hours past midnight, the house still except for the hum of the ceiling fan. Her LinkedIn page was a joke, no college listed, a title like Strategic Financial Consultant with no real firm attached. The business name she used, Arbor Nexus, didn't show up in any official state registry, just a website with stock photos and 3 sentences. I dug deeper. I searched through business filings, digital footprints, anything tied to her email. That's when the aliases started appearing. Melissa K. Langford, Olivia Sherwin. Each linked to investment forums full of complaints, all women posting stories that sounded eerily similar. Whirlwind romance, flashy promises, and then emptied accounts. I didn't need a smoking gun. I already had the fire. One name popped up more than once, Judith P. Schaefer. She'd posted in a closed thread about an Olivia Sherwin who vanished days before her wedding, taking $38,000 and a family heirloom ring. I found an old email address tied to the account and took a chance. 5 minutes later, my laptop buzzed with a video call. The woman who appeared on screen looked tired, guarded. "I'm not giving you anything unless I know who you are." I turned the webcam slightly toward my screen and pulled up a picture of Verity. Judith froze. "That's her," she whispered. "She said her name was Olivia. She told my mother she'd never worn a ring so special. 2 days later, both were gone." The sadness in her voice didn't beg for pity. It warned me. I ended the call, saved the recording, and backed everything up. Local, cloud, encrypted. If I'd taken this to my parents, they'd say I was jealous. If I told Gavin, he'd ask why I was always trying to ruin things. So I waited, listened, calculated. The next morning, I passed through the kitchen on my way to the front porch. Verity was already seated with my mom, sipping tea and laughing like she'd grown up in this house. My father walked in behind them, patting her shoulder. "She's the best thing that's ever happened to Gavin," he said, like it was scripture. I smiled. She certainly knows how to make an impression. But inside, I had already drawn my line. After breakfast, I asked everyone to gather in the living room under the pretense of reviewing the wedding schedule. They shuffled in slowly, Mom with her notepad, Dad with his mug, Gavin yawning, and Verity in a silk robe like she'd woken up in a spa, not my parents' guest room. I stood in front of them, tablet in hand, and said calmly, "This won't take long, but it's important." I tapped the screen. First, Verity's fake LinkedIn profile. Second, the non-existent business she claimed to co-found. Third, aliases she'd used, Melissa Langford, Olivia Sherwin. "Recognize those names?" I asked. No one spoke. Then I pulled up a clip of Judith confirming everything. Her voice cracked as she said, "She disappeared 2 days before the wedding. My mother's ring, 38 grand, gone." I looked at Gavin. "Sound familiar?" He blinked, then looked down. Cynthia broke first. "Raylene, what is this? What's the point of all this? Are you seriously trying to ruin this week?" "This is about protecting our family," I replied. "You mean tearing it apart?" She snapped. "Your brother finally finds someone and you, jealous as always, show up with your spreadsheets and suspicions." Dad didn't even look at me. He slapped a folder shut. "You've always believed you're the smartest person in the room. Maybe this time try just being supportive." Verity didn't defend herself. She didn't need to. She just leaned back and said, "A lot of accusations for someone who's been invisible for what, 10 years? No one defended me. Not even Gavin. I walked out before I said something I'd regret. The sky outside matched my mood. Heavy, gray, on the edge of a storm. I took the gravel trail behind the house. I used to come here to cry when I was a kid. This time I didn't cry. I remembered every time they'd told me to be quiet, to stop making trouble, to not embarrass them. But they didn't embarrass easily. They ignored. They erased. I paused under the old oak tree and sent a quick message. Judith, stay ready. I might need your voice again. That evening, I helped decorate the tent. Fairy lights, name cards, floral runners. I played the role. I smiled. But behind the performance, I was documenting everything. Photos, timelines, Verity's inconsistencies. They wanted a silent daughter. What they had was a strategist. By the time the house fell silent, I was still wide awake, sitting in the corner of the guest room, the glow of my screen the only light. The folder I'd swiped from Dad's office earlier that day lay open beside me. Statements, refinancing notices, credit pull reports. They told me what words never would. Verity had already gained access to their accounts. She'd done this before. The timeline matched. Then it hit me. Austin. 3 months ago. I was speaking at a tech conference about fraud prevention in fintech startups. She'd approached me after my panel, introduced herself as someone interested in scaling impact through crypto. Her tone was polite, charming even. How do you protect yourself financially? She'd asked with a smile. Ever feel vulnerable being in a field like that? I thought it was curiosity. Now I know it was an assessment. That wasn't a first meeting. That was recon. She targeted Gavin after she vetted me. At the rehearsal venue later that morning, I caught her alone, fluffing floral centerpieces near the stage. I approached with calm I didn't feel. I remember Austin, I said quietly. Her hands didn't stop moving. Cute town. You asked about my finances. I lowered my voice. You were testing the room. You wanted to know if I was a threat. She turned her head slightly. And were you? Big mistake, I said. You picked the wrong family, the wrong sister. Verity didn't blink. Then show your hand, or fold. Either way, I walk that aisle tomorrow. I held her stare for 2 full seconds before walking away. Back in the car, I opened my secure folder, uploaded 2 files, and texted my lawyer. 1 video compilation of her aliases, with dates and facial recognition matches. 1 spreadsheet tying her digital footprint to Gavin's bank activity. I wasn't trying to stop the wedding anymore. I was preparing to win everything that came after. The wind picked up just as I stepped onto the stone patio where the rehearsal dinner was underway. Strings of lights swayed overhead, flickering like nerves. I'd matched the dress code, navy and silver, and even wore the earrings Cynthia gave me at 16. The smile I wore wasn't real, but it was practiced. I moved through the crowd like a ghost with purpose, smiling at neighbors who forgot my name, nodding at relatives who still thought I lived somewhere in tech. The iPad stayed zipped in my clutch, until Verity stood and raised her glass. Gavin and I believe in honesty, she began, voice sugar smooth. Not perfection, just showing up for each other without judgment or the past weighing us down. I stood. Gavin's eyes darted. Verity's narrowed. I didn't clear my throat. I didn't make a scene. I tapped my screen. A nearby TV screen flickered, then mirrored my tablet. A video played. Verity, no, Melissa, laughing with a man at a private dinner. Olivia Sherwin accepting a check. A scrolling list of flagged aliases and financial reports. A hush swept the crowd. Gavin's champagne glass slipped from his hand. Cynthia gasped. Walter's face went pale. No one moved. Verity didn't run. She looked right at me. You just ruined the only good thing this family ever had. No, I said quietly. I just saved the only thing I ever had left. My dignity. Then I turned toward the guests. Not just my family. You can believe what you want, but facts don't care how charming someone looks in a white dress. No apology, no plea, just truth. And then I left, calm. I didn't ruin their evening. I revealed the truth. What they do with it now is their own undoing. The air in the dining room was dense, like it had been soaked in the residue of arguments never spoken aloud. Still, suffocating. Not even the ticking of the antique wall clock dared to cut through it. Plates sat full and untouched in front of each person at the table. Steam curled gently from the teapot, unnoticed. The windows were fogged over from the rain that had poured through the night, as though the silence in the house had clung to the glass and refused to let the morning in. I walked in without waiting for an invitation. None was coming. I didn't expect a smile or even eye contact. Gavin was already there, seated stiffly at the table. His fingers were interlocked on the linen tablecloth, his shoulders drawn in like he was bracing himself for a blow. My mother sat next to him, back straight as a board, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her eyes were swollen and red-rimmed, like she'd been crying, but her mouth was set in a thin, hard line. My father didn't look up from his plate. He didn't have to. I could feel his disapproval like a spotlight aimed square at my spine. I walked to the counter, picked up the coffee pot, and poured myself a cup. Slowly, intentionally. Every movement was deliberate, measured. I wanted them to feel how calm I was, how composed, because inside, I was boiling. I took the seat farthest from them, the one at the end of the table, like a guest, like an outsider. Gavin cracked first. Of course he did. I knew, he said quietly. Not everything, but enough. I saw the bank statements, the weird charges, money missing, things that didn't add up. I looked at him, expressionless. You didn't want to believe me. Just say that. His eyes dropped to the table. You didn't want to see it. Because seeing it meant facing what she did, what you let happen. So instead, you turned your back and let me take the fall. I wasn't sure, he said, and I didn't want to make things worse. No, I said, my voice calm but cutting. You didn't want to make things harder for her. You let me become the problem, the scapegoat, the one who made everything uncomfortable. My mother's voice broke the stillness. We just wanted Gavin to be okay, she said, barely above a whisper. He's been through enough. I stared at her, blinking in disbelief. And I haven't? Her mouth opened, but no words came. She looked down. That's when my father stood. His chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. It felt intentional. This is a family matter, he said coldly. It should have stayed private. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. That's exactly why I went public. Because in this family, privacy just means silence. It means pretending nothing's wrong until someone breaks. No one interrupted. I brought you all proof, I said. Not speculation, not guesses. Documents, records. And still, you turned away. You didn't want the truth. You wanted quiet. And I've never been quiet enough for you. Gavin stayed silent, his jaw clenched. Not a single word in my defense. I stood slowly. My chair made no noise. The room was still frozen in place, like if no one moved, none of this would be real. I'm done playing the role you assigned me, the difficult one, the dramatic one, the one who always makes it about themselves. I glanced at each of them. I didn't burn this bridge. I just finally stopped pretending it was still standing. My mother's voice wavered again. Please don't walk out like this. We're still your family. I paused at the doorway. My hand brushed the frame. I didn't turn around at first, just stared at the hallway that led to the front door, the way out. You had 1,000 chances to stop me from walking out like this, I said, but every time you made it clear, I was never really one of you. And with that, I stepped out, not just of the room or the house, but out of the version of myself they'd all insisted I be. The one who stayed silent, the one who kept the peace, the one who was always too much or not enough. This wasn't a dramatic exit, this was a release, and for once, the silence behind me wasn't mine to carry. The door clicked shut behind me like the last word in a long argument. But I didn't keep walking. The air outside was heavy, thick with the scent of rain still clinging to the pavement. Dusk blurred the edges of everything, the trees, the street, the sagging porch behind me. A low rumble of thunder rolled somewhere in the distance, slowly fading. I stood still, listening. Then I turned around. I walked back up the steps, opened the door, and stepped into the living room like I belonged there. Like I hadn't just declared my exit. The temperature inside hadn't changed, but the atmosphere had. Eyes turned to me with a mix of shock and dread. They hadn't expected me to come back. Not so soon, not like this. Walter was still in his armchair, shoulders locked in that familiar military posture, like sitting still was a form of discipline. Cynthia was wiping at her eyes, pretending it was dust or allergies, anything but the truth. Gavin looked up briefly, then back down. His silence was predictable by now, his favorite defense. I didn't wait for them to speak. I stepped forward and set 3 identical manila folders on the coffee table, their corners aligned with the edge like pieces on a game board. This wasn't a conversation. It was a presentation. Cynthia blinked. "What is this now?" "My terms," I said. My voice was level, unreadable. "You don't have to agree with them, but you will read them." No one moved to open the folders. I remained standing. Inside each folder was a carefully constructed plan, pages I had spent the last few weeks assembling with lawyers and financial advisors, a detailed breakdown of the family's assets and liabilities, a revised financial structure to secure long-term stability, legal clauses protecting my independence and rights to any shared property, and, at the center of it all, a signed acknowledgement of how I'd been marginalized, dismissed, and used for years. Not an apology, just truth, in writing. Walter leaned forward slightly, one brow raised in disbelief. "You can't just walk in here and lay down ultimatums." I met his glare without flinching. "I can when I'm the only one who didn't hand over access to the house account to a stranger." Cynthia's head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" I pulled a stapled packet from my coat pocket and set it down next to the folders. A printed transaction log. Dozens of unexplained withdrawals and transfers. Verity had joint access to the family account. You didn't even know her maiden name, but you trusted her with your retirement. The silence that followed was absolute. Walter's face went slack. Cynthia's mouth fell open. Gavin looked like he might speak for the first time in hours, but no words came. He just sat there, hollowed out. "I warned you," I said, voice calm but firm. "I tried to bring this to your attention. I tried reasoning. You dismissed me every time. So now it's on paper. There are terms, protections, decisions to be made." I let the weight of that settle. "You either fix this with me," I continued, "or you fix it without a dime of my help, financial or otherwise." They didn't argue, not this time. There were no accusations, no raised voices, just quiet resignation. Walter reached for the pen first. His hand trembled as he signed, and for the first time in my life, he didn't hide it. Cynthia followed after a long pause, her signature hesitant but complete. Gavin was last. He signed without comment, without even lifting his eyes to mine. I collected the folders, slipped them into my briefcase, and set a labeled flash drive on the table. It was for our lawyer, a copy of everything, including their signatures. Before I left, I turned to face them one last time. "This isn't reconciliation," I said, my voice clear. "This is containment, damage control. I'll help you get out of this mess. But I'm not pretending to be your daughter anymore. Not in the way you've defined it." They didn't stop me. I stepped out into the night, rain starting again, soft and steady, and closed the door behind me for the second and final time. Maybe they still didn't see me. Maybe they never would. But I saw myself now, fully, and I wasn't invisible anymore. I didn't rush the flight home. I took a layover on purpose, spent 2 hours in silence at an airport coffee bar, and let the weight of it all settle. When I finally stepped into my apartment, Denver looked brighter than I remembered. The next morning, a voicemail waited. Gavin's voice was flat. "She's gone, 2 days ago, no warning. She took Mom's ring and the joint account's been wiped. Cops can't do much, no marriage license, no prenup, nothing." I didn't save the message out of spite. I saved it out of habit, into a folder labeled Lessons. Later that week, Aunt Marjorie texted updates in bullet points like she was filing a report. Cynthia's in therapy, Walter's trying insurance but denied, Gavin's taking a leave of absence. I didn't reply, but I felt, still. They weren't monsters, just believers in a story that never included me. In my home office, I finally hung my framed diploma, summa cum laude in data science. It had sat in storage for years. Now it owned a wall. That afternoon, I led a workshop for first-gen college girls. One of them stayed behind. "You make me feel like I'm allowed to matter," she said, "even when nobody else thinks I do." My throat tightened. "That's because you do," I told her. "You always have." I still journal every Friday. I still haven't returned any calls from Tennessee, and Gavin's number remains blocked. But a letter arrived last week, from the bank. Their home won't be foreclosed. My structure plan worked. I smiled. not for the win, but because they didn't need to thank me. That was never the goal. I didn't get the family I wanted, but I got clarity, and peace, and me, and that's enough. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't leaving people who hurt you, it's realizing they may never understand why you had to. I didn't walk away for revenge. I walked away because healing can't grow where denial still lives. If you've ever felt unseen in your own family, like your silence was expected and your truth was inconvenient, I want you to know your value isn't up for debate. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to be heard. And maybe you're still in that house, still sitting at that table, biting your tongue. Just know, one day you'll find the strength to choose yourself. And when you do, you won't regret it. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been the invisible one in your family? Or had to walk away to protect your peace? If this story spoke to you, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me what state you're watching from. And hey, if you made it this far, it means the story mattered. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got more powerful stories coming your way. Real voices, real choices. See you in the next one. Hi, I'm Lori. My cousin sent me a clip of my sister laughing about how she humiliated me. At first, I didn't say a word, but that video? It cracked open everything. She wasn't just mocking me. She'd taken my credit, my home, my name. And somehow, I was still the villain in her story. How did it get that far? And why did I let it? Maybe you've been the quiet one too. But silence doesn't keep the peace forever. So, what finally pushed me to fight back? I came home later than usual that Thursday. Traffic on Kingston Pike had crawled. The kind of stop and go that tests your patience after a day filled with back-to-back meetings. My shoulder bag slipped down my arm as I pushed through the door and let it fall to the floor. The house was quiet. It usually was, but tonight it felt heavier. I didn't bother with dinner, just kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto the couch, legs aching from a day in heels. I grabbed the remote, flipped on the TV for noise, and instinctively reached for my phone. That's when the message came in. Uncle Ellis, you need to see this. I'm sorry. No context, no explanation, just a link. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Ellis isn't the type to send random videos. He's old school. Birthday calls, yes. Forwarding video clips? Not his thing. Still, curiosity beat hesitation. I tapped the link. The video loaded fast. The image was shaky at first, like someone had filmed it with a phone at their side, but the setting was unmistakable. My parents' backyard. The old crooked oak. That rusty patio set I told them to throw away years ago. And there she was, Skylar, my younger sister, 29, but still acting like a smug college freshman on spring break. She lounged in a lawn chair, drink in hand, surrounded by our cousins and a few of her loudmouthed friends. Tiffany's hyena laugh cut through the clip. Jake was in the background, egging her on. Skylar tilted her head and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Lori's too dumb to ever kick me out. She just lets me live there, rent-free, like an idiot." Laughter. So much laughter. My grip on the phone tightened. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just stared at the screen as she rolled her eyes dramatically, like she was auditioning for a reality show. She really thinks I'm struggling. Poor little me. Can't afford my own place? Please. I make more than she even knows. Why would I waste my money when I've got my dumb sister covering everything? Louder laughter. Even Dad chuckled. I watched the whole thing twice before I could even breathe. By the third time, my stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd be sick. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sank into the couch. 3 years. 3 damn years of Skylar living in my house. I took her in when she called crying after her breakup. She'd lost her apartment, said she just needed a little time. I told her, stay as long as you need. And I meant it. But now I saw it for what it was. Manipulation dressed as vulnerability. I opened Netflix, needing something to drown out the noise in my head. A screen popped up. Your email is no longer associated with this account. Huh. I tried Hulu, same result. I checked my email settings, Both accounts had been changed. Different usernames, recovery emails I didn't recognize. And then it hit me. Skylar. She didn't ask. She didn't warn me. She just took over, quietly, deliberately. She'd wormed her way so deep into my life that she'd started replacing me, bit by bit, like peeling the label off a jar and putting her own name on it. I glanced toward the hallway. Her bedroom door, technically my guest room, was closed. I could hear faint music behind it. She was in there, probably scrolling TikTok, laughing at some stupid meme. Maybe even the clip of herself mocking me. I stared at the dark TV screen reflecting back my own face. I didn't recognize myself. This was not who I used to be. I picked up my phone and scrolled back to Ellis's message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should I call her out? Storm into her room? Demand an explanation? No. That's what the old me would have done. The one she counted on. The one who forgave and forgot and folded every single time. Not anymore. I typed slowly. Thank you. Please don't say anything to her. I'll handle it. I hit send. Then I sat back. The silence in the room wasn't peaceful. It was tense, charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. Skylar had no idea what she'd started. But I did. The silence from the night before still clung to the air when I got up the next morning. I made my way into the kitchen, poured myself a coffee, and leaned against the counter as the sun crept across the floor. I wasn't really drinking it. I was watching the kitchen, the drawers, the fridge, the cluttered corkboard Skylar had started pinning her own notes to. This used to be mine, all of it. But somehow, without slamming a single door, she'd managed to colonize the space. That morning was quiet. Too quiet. She'd already left for work. Or so she said. She'd been freelancing for almost 6 months now. Some remote gig in digital marketing. I stopped asking for details when I realized every answer got more vague. I sat at the table and found myself remembering the night she called me. It was fall, October, I think. I was still getting used to my divorce papers being real, not just ink on a court document. My evenings were filled with reheated soup and silence. Then my phone rang. Skylar's voice was wrecked, choked, frantic. He kicked me out, Lori. I don't know what to do. I'm sitting in my car. I have nowhere to go. I didn't even hesitate. I told her to come. She showed up an hour later with 3 duffel bags and a charger cable. That was it. Just a few weeks, she said. But weeks became months, then years. At first she helped around the house, light cleaning, folding laundry, but slowly it shifted. She started missing job interviews, said she wasn't ready. Then she landed that remote job, and somehow the help disappeared altogether. I took care of the mortgage, bills, groceries, like I always had. She offered once, maybe twice, to pay for toilet paper. The kind of gesture meant to seem generous, but empty in practice. And then there was the card. 6 months ago, I added Skylar as an authorized user on my credit card, not because she asked, but because I thought it'd help her out with basics. I figured she could chip in for shared household stuff. Maybe the electric bill, some groceries. We agreed on that. It wasn't a blank check. It was support, trust. But trust without boundaries? That's not kindness. It's an invitation to be used. It was a Wednesday when the bill hit my inbox. I was at work, scrolling through emails between meetings, when I saw the notification. $489.27, online purchase, delivered to P.O. Box, Franklin, Tennessee. My heart thudded once. Then again, Franklin? That's not even in the same county. I opened the full statement. Designer candles, makeup bundles, limited edition sneakers, not a single charge related to utilities or food. I double-checked the shipping info. P.O. Box. Registered to Skylar Todd. When I confronted her that evening, she barely looked up from her phone. You left the card linked, she said. I figured you were okay with it. Like I was supposed to blame myself. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I just watched her, so casual, so unbothered. You figured I'd pay for $300 in lipstick and shoes? She scoffed. It's not a big deal, Lori. You make way more than me. It's just a few things. I didn't say what I wanted to say. That she hadn't paid a single dime in rent in 3 years. That she'd never once offered. That she treated my home like her Airbnb, except free, and without the decency of cleaning up after herself. I thought that was the end of it. But I was wrong. A few nights later, I noticed another charge. Smaller this time. $269.55. Same card, same account. This one stung more. It was a gift. I recognized the brand immediately. Omega Tech, luxury smartwatches. She'd sent it to an address in Nashville. The name on the order? Brandon Mitchell, her ex. I shouldn't have checked, but I did. The receipt had a message attached. You deserve the best. I've got your back, always. Always. I stared at those words until the screen blurred. She hadn't just used me to pamper herself. She was using me to look generous, to play the loyal girlfriend, and she did it behind my back with my card. That night, I didn't eat. I couldn't. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the nightstand, the lamp, my father's old photo, the home I kept alive, the one she was turning into her stage. I opened my wallet, pulled the card out, ran my thumb along the edge. It had wear on it now, curved slightly from use. Use. That word burned in my throat. I stood, walked to the kitchen and opened the drawer, took out a pair of scissors, the kind I used to cut open cereal bags and coupons, and I sliced it, clean through, twice. The pieces curled slightly as they fell to the table. I left them there. No note, no explanation. She hadn't come home yet, but when she did, I wouldn't be waiting with open arms. No more excuses, no more sisterly patience. The next time she tried to charge a single thing, she'd find out her unlimited pass had expired. This wasn't revenge, it was reality, and she was about to meet it, one cut card at a time. I kept the pieces, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. A line had finally been drawn, even if Skylar hadn't noticed yet. That morning, I sat on the couch, cradling a mug of coffee gone cold hours ago. The TV was off, the blinds still closed. It wasn't about rest. I just didn't want to see the sun hit parts of the living room that no longer felt like mine. The cushions bore the shape of someone else. The coffee table held rings from Skylar's drinks, not mine. Even the throw blanket, my grandmother's, had been replaced by some fuzzy leopard print thing Skylar brought home after one of her shopping detox sprees. I wasn't sure when that trade happened, and that was the point. I'd brushed off the signs. I'd told myself she was just settling in, that I was being dramatic. But this morning I saw everything for what it was. Evidence. A slow erosion of space, of ownership, of self. 3 days earlier, I'd removed her access to my bank app, canceled her name as an authorized user. She hadn't brought it up, not yet. But she would. And before that conversation could happen, I needed to see the whole truth. No more brushing things off. No more shrugging and calling it family stuff. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. Her account was private, of course, but Tiffany Rowe wasn't. And Tiffany posted like it paid her bills. I didn't have to scroll far. A photo stopped me cold. Taken in my bedroom. My bedroom. Not just the sheets, not just the curtains. I recognized the dresser, the mirror, even the painting above my headboard. The caption? Queen's Lair chillin' in style. #sleepover vibes, #besties over everything. I stared at the screen, frozen. My jaw clenched. Tiffany. Skylar's loudest friend. The one who always left empty soda cans on the counter, sprayed body mist in the hallway like it was Febreze, and never made eye contact with me unless it was to say, "You got oat milk?" She'd been in my room. That wasn't an accident. That was access, granted. Or more likely, taken. I scrolled through more stories from that weekend. The same one I'd spent in Chattanooga with our cousin Marla. I'd been gone less than 48 hours. Long enough, apparently, for Skylar to throw what looked like a full-blown house party. Confetti. Hookah smoke. People dancing in the living room. Someone doing shots in the kitchen I remodeled myself. The hallway mirror? Cracked. My mirror. Skylar never mentioned any of it. I remembered coming home that Sunday night and thinking the place smelled off. I opened the windows, lit a candle, told myself it was just stale air from being gone, but now I knew better. I'd been played, not just in money or space, but in silence. She let me walk back into my own home, clean just enough to hide what had happened. I set the phone down and stood slowly, walking to my bedroom. I paused at the threshold. It looked the same bedding, same lighting, but it didn't feel the same. I opened the closet. One of my silk robes was gone. My favorite one. I opened the nightstand drawer. My family photo, the one with mom, dad, me at graduation, had been tucked away. In its place, a bottle of setting spray and a scrunchie I didn't recognize. I sat down on the edge of the bed. This wasn't just someone overstaying their welcome. This was a takeover. One slow enough to mask as comfort, but precise enough to be calculated. She hadn't taken over by force. She didn't need to. She just filled every space I left unguarded. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I just sat there and felt it, the awareness sinking into my spine like ice. I stood and walked to the door, locked it, slowly, deliberately. I couldn't remember the last time I locked my bedroom door, maybe not since high school. But tonight, I did. She'd claimed everything else. But this room was mine. Again. I turned off the light, pulled the covers back, and slid into bed. I whispered to no one in particular. If she thinks this house is hers, she's about to be reminded who signed the deed. The things she took that weren't hers. The next morning started like most. Too early, too quiet, too cold. I shuffled into the kitchen with sleep still behind my eyes and tapped the thermostat on my phone out of habit. I didn't even look up. My fingers knew the routine. But instead of the usual beep or temperature update, I saw a message I'd never seen before. You do not have permission to control this device. I blinked, tapped again. Same result. I frowned and backed out of the app, trying the kitchen lights next. Same issue. Then the garage camera. Nothing. That pit in my stomach, the one I'd been trying to ignore, turned solid. I tossed my phone on the counter and walked over to the router tucked behind the microwave. I bent down and looked at the blinking lights. Still on. Still working. But the password had been changed. By the time I stood up, I already knew. I checked the smart home dashboard through the main portal on my laptop. Everything, lights, thermostat, cameras, even the doorbell feed, was now registered to a new master account. Skylar's. She didn't ask. She didn't warn me. She just took over. Again. I closed the laptop slowly, set it on the table, and turned just in time to see her stroll into the kitchen in her robe. My robe. Morning, she yawned like we were college roommates. She reached into the fridge, grabbed my oat milk, and poured herself a cup of coffee without missing a beat. I didn't say anything, not yet. She glanced at me, then back at her phone. Oh, by the way, I linked the smart system to my profile. Thought it'd be easier to manage since you're always working late. I studied her face. Calm, careless, confident. She really thought she had that kind of say. My jaw clenched. I nodded once, tight. Good to know. She didn't notice the tone. She never did. I left the room before I said something I couldn't take back. But inside, something was changing, calcifying. That was the word for it, like frost spreading across glass. Later that afternoon, I was sitting at my desk when my phone rang. Uncle Ellis. He rarely called unless it was serious. Hey, everything okay? I asked. There was a pause on the other end, just long enough to make my stomach drop. I wanted to check on you, he said slowly. Skylar called me last week. Said you've been struggling. She mentioned maybe I could help you out. She asked if I could spot you a couple grand. I stopped breathing. She what? She made it sound like you were overwhelmed, that you were trying to keep up with bills after the divorce and weren't saying anything. She said she didn't want to embarrass you by asking directly. I stood there, frozen. Not embarrassed. Not even angry. Humiliated. That wasn't just overstepping. That was character theft. Skylar didn't just take my money or my space. She was taking my narrative and bending it into something pitiful, so she could play the hero. And I bet she sounded convincing. Skylar had always been good at twisting concern into currency. She used my name? I asked. She did, Ellis confirmed. And she said she didn't want you to know she asked. Of course she didn't, because I would have stopped it. I didn't tell Ellis the full story, not yet. I just thanked him for checking in and promised to call him soon. He deserved better than to be caught in her web. That night, I didn't wait for her to bring up the thermostat. I didn't wait for her to apologize or explain. She was on the couch, flipping through some trashy dating show, when I sat across from her at the dining table. She glanced up. "What's up?" I didn't flinch. I didn't soften. "Don't ever speak for me again," I said. She blinked, eyebrows lifting. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Stay out of my systems, stay out of my name, and stay in your place." The air between us froze. Her mouth opened slightly, like she wasn't sure if this was a joke or a challenge. For the first time in years, I didn't follow up with a smile. I didn't pad the blow. I didn't apologize for drawing a line. She watched me like I was someone new. But I wasn't new. I was done. Done with being erased. Done with being twisted into some sob story so she could shine. That line she crossed? That was the last one. And if she crossed it again, I wasn't going to ask her to leave. I was going to make her. 2 days passed without a word from Skylar. She moved through the house like everything was fine, ate my groceries, watched my TV, left her damp towel on the bathroom floor. The usual disrespect, wrapped in the illusion of normalcy. But I wasn't playing that role anymore. By Wednesday morning, I had printed the lease agreement I'd drafted with the help of a friend who worked in real estate. It was basic, clean, 1 page, monthly rent, $1,200, due on the 1st, utilities split, 30-day notice if she wanted to leave. Standard, reasonable, adult. I slid it into a folder and placed it on the kitchen table just before I left for work. When I got home later that afternoon, she was already there. She must have seen it, because the moment I walked through the door, I heard her laugh. Not the amused kind, the bitter, mocking kind. "You can't be serious," she said, holding the folder like it was a dirty napkin. I didn't look up from where I was taking off my shoes. "I am." She let out a short scoff. "Are you actually trying to charge me rent now? Like I'm some random roommate?" I stood up slowly, walked past her toward the fridge. "It's either that or you find somewhere else." She was still laughing, but I could hear the edge creeping in. "Wow. After everything I've been through? After you begged me to stay when I had nowhere to go?" "I never begged you," I said, voice level. "I offered. For a time. That time's over." Skylar wasn't ready for this version of me. The version that didn't back down. That didn't get emotional. That didn't offer tissue boxes and compromise. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. "You know what your problem is? You think being cold makes you strong. But it just makes you alone." I shrugged. "Then I guess I'm finally making peace with it." She stormed out of the kitchen, muttering something under her breath about family betrayal. I didn't follow, I didn't explain. I'd said all I needed to, but she wasn't done. That night, while scrolling Instagram, I saw it. Tiffany had posted a video, a reel. I didn't even need to hear the audio to know I was being mocked. Skylar was in the frame, holding up the lease and pointing at it dramatically. The caption read, "When your sister turns into your landlord, #family drama #living the dream." The comments were worse. "Oof, cold-blooded. She's your sister. Just talk it out, girl. Charging family rent? For real?" I stared at the screen as the comments piled in. Strangers chiming in on a story they didn't know, laughing at a version of me that didn't exist. Skylar had always been good at flipping the narrative. She didn't argue with truth. She drowned it in a prettier lie. She wanted to make me look cruel so she could look generous. Wanted to paint me as the villain so she could be the underdog. She didn't care that it was my house, my bills, my name on the deed. She just cared about controlling the story. And for years I'd let her. Not anymore. I opened my laptop and pulled up her email. Subject, documentation, your move. I attached the lease, signed and timestamped. No note, no explanation, just the facts, and a clock ticking. The next morning her door stayed shut. She didn't mention the lease. Didn't knock on my bedroom door. Didn't text. But I knew she saw the email. She always had her phone glued to her hand. She just didn't answer because that's who she was. If she ignored it long enough, maybe I'd fold. She'd miscalculated. At lunch, I stepped outside work to stretch my legs, scrolling my phone like I usually did during breaks. I didn't expect what I saw. A coworker had sent me a message. "Girl, this is you?" Attached was a TikTok link. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the play icon. My stomach already knew it would drop. I clicked. Skylar's face filled the screen, mid-eye roll, lease in hand. She stood in my kitchen, using my counter as a stage. "And this," she said to the camera, waving the lease, "is what happens when your sister forgets what family means. Guess who's charging rent now? Hashtag landlord sister." She smiled, tossed the lease onto the table dramatically, and added a final jab. "Guess I should start leaving my shoes outside too." The video cut out with a fake laugh track layered over it. It already had thousands of views, hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. "Oh, Mo! Girl, your sister trippin'. She must be real bitter. Family don't treat each other like tenants. You're the real one, Skylar." Each one was a nail. Not in my coffin, but in whatever fragile memory of sisterhood still lingered between us. I swallowed hard. The sting wasn't just public shame, it was betrayal, on blast. She didn't just dismiss me in private, she humiliated me in front of strangers, and she enjoyed it. But humiliation didn't last long this time. It burned itself into resolve. By the time I got home, I'd made my decision. I sat on the couch, opened my laptop, and forwarded the lease to the property management company I'd spoken with last week, just in case she refused to engage. I didn't need permission anymore. The message from their team came back within the hour. "We'll formalize everything and send the agreement from our end. Let us know if you'd like us to handle further communication." Yes, I absolutely would. I replied simply, "Please proceed." When the formal notice went out, I poured myself a glass of water. Not wine, not coffee. Something neutral, something steady. That's how I felt. Neutral. Steady. That evening, just after sunset, Skylar finally cracked. She came out of her room like a storm, phone in hand, expression wild. She didn't ask about the lease. She didn't ask about the email. She asked about Ellis. "You really told Uncle Ellis about the video?" she snapped. I didn't even look up from my laptop. "No," I said. "Uncle Ellis sent me the first one, remember?" She froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her confidence took a visible hit, and I watched it happen in real time. She backed up, blinked fast, and then let out a weak laugh. "Okay, well, it wasn't even a big deal. It was a joke. Everyone took it that way." "Then why'd you try to get Ricky to delete it?" I asked quietly. She went still. I turned my head slowly. "Yeah, he told someone." "Who told me?" Now it was my turn to stare. "You weren't joking, Skylar. You were performing. You always are." She crossed her arms. "I didn't mean for it to blow up." "But you meant for people to see it," I shot back. "You meant to make me look petty, bitter, controlling." Her voice dropped like she was trying to reel things in. "It wasn't that serious." "It was calculated," I replied. "And cowardly." She glared at me. "Oh, so now I'm a coward?" "No," I said, standing. "You're someone who doesn't know how to handle being held accountable." I moved past her, pulled out my phone, and opened the message from the property manager. "By the way, the lease is now legally binding. You either pay or you leave." Skylar's jaw clenched. Her fingers twitched like she wanted to throw something. But she didn't, and I didn't wait. I walked into my room, locked the door, and let the silence confirm what I already knew. She wasn't going to back down without a fight, but neither was I. She knew what was coming. And still, she chose war. It had been a week since I sent the lease, and the house still felt strange. Skylar hadn't said a word, hadn't shown up to confront me. But things had shifted in the air, like a storm waiting to hit. The tension was palpable, hanging thick in the quiet corners of the house, where we used to laugh, argue, and talk. Now there was just the looming weight of unspoken words. I reached over and grabbed my phone from the nightstand, tapping the screen to check the temperature. My fingers brushed the cold surface. The thermostat app wouldn't connect. I tried again, but it gave me the same message. "You don't have permission to control this device." I felt a tightness in my chest. I checked the Wi-Fi, then my TV. Both were disconnected. Skylar had done it. She'd locked me out of everything. Again. I stared at the blank screen of my phone for a moment, trying to wrap my mind around it. I wasn't surprised. It was Skylar, after all. She'd always been good at erasing me, replacing my presence with hers. But this? This felt like another level of control. The house was still mine, but it didn't feel like it. Not anymore. I went into the kitchen, trying to shake off the chill that had settled in. As I made my coffee, the silence between us felt nuclear. No shouting, no arguments, just the coldness of knowing she'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and I hadn't said a word, not yet, but I would. It wasn't long before my phone buzzed again, a notification from a coworker. "Did you see Skylar's post?" I opened the message and clicked the link to her Facebook page. My stomach dropped. There it was, her post, loud and proud. A long caption with vague emotional undertones. "It hurts when family throws you out during your lowest. But I guess some people never really saw you as more than a burden." She had posted it less than an hour ago. Already there were dozens of comments. Some were from people I barely knew, some were from my family, people who had no clue what was really going on. I read through the comments, each one a pinprick. "I can't believe she did this to you. Family is supposed to support each other." "That's messed up. You deserve better, Skylar. This is what happens when you don't treat family right." I couldn't stop reading. The lies, the way she spun the narrative. Skylar had turned me into the villain. Again. And as I read, I realized something. She wasn't just controlling the house. She was trying to control how everyone else saw me. She wanted them to think I was the heartless one, the one who didn't care, the one who kicked her sister to the curb. The post had been shared, commented on, liked. It was working. People were sympathizing with her, with the lie she'd created. I slammed my phone down onto the counter, the glass of water on the side jumping from the impact. But I wasn't going to let this slide. Not anymore. I stood up and went to my laptop, opening up the email from the property management company. It was time to make sure the next step was as official as it could get. I typed up a message, adding the signed lease as an attachment. Subject: Documentation, your move. I hit send. At that moment, I knew there was no going back. The game had changed. I had drawn the line, and now I was done playing nice. Later that evening, Skylar confronted me, but it wasn't about the lease. It wasn't even about the house. It was about the video. "Did you talk to Uncle Ellis?" she demanded, her voice sharp. I didn't even flinch. "No, he sent me the video." Her eyes flickered with panic, a flash of something other than the usual indifference. She didn't expect that. I could see it in her face. "Are you kidding me? Why would you even—" I cut her off. "You wanted to make me look bad. You thought if you flipped the story, if you made me look cruel, it would make you the victim. But it's not working, Skylar. I'm done with it." Her lips twisted, and she took a step back. "You're overreacting." I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm not overreacting. I'm done with you taking everything I've built and trying to turn it into your stage. I'm done being your scapegoat. You don't get to write my story anymore." She blinked, her shoulders stiffening. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, it was just a joke. But I wasn't buying it anymore." "No, it wasn't just a joke. You wanted to ruin me, Skylar. But I'm not going to let you get away with it." She stood silent for a moment, trying to decide what to say. But the words never came. Instead, she turned and walked away, disappearing into her room. And just like that, the silence returned. The silence that had settled in after her first betrayal. The silence that had become normal. But now, it felt different. It felt final. Later that night, I drafted the 14-day notice to vacate under the legal lease agreement. I printed out 2 copies, one for me and one for her. I left it on the kitchen counter, no words, just a quiet stare. Then I walked to her room and began packing her things. I started with the easiest items, the books on her dresser, the clothes strewn across the floor. I carefully folded the shirts, picking up the things she had left behind as if they were mine to deal with. I didn't say a word to her. I didn't need to. She had crossed every boundary I had, and now it was time for her to leave. The clock was ticking, and she knew it. The first day after I gave her the notice, I didn't see her at all. Her bedroom door remained shut. I walked past it in the morning on my way to work, and again at night after dinner, but there was no light, no music, no sign of life behind it. On the second day, it was the same. The third, still nothing. I didn't knock. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Whatever game she was trying to play, disappearing to stir guilt or create suspense, I wasn't playing anymore. On the fourth day, I woke up, made my coffee, and passed the hallway like I had every other morning. But this time, the door was open. The room was empty. Her bed was untouched. The suitcase that usually sat beside her closet was gone. And the power cord she always left half draped across the floor was nowhere to be seen. She'd left. No note, no text, no confrontation. But I knew it wasn't over. That evening, I returned home from work, slipped off my shoes, and sat on the couch. I just started scrolling through emails when the front door flung open. Skylar stood there, hair disheveled, face flushed with rage. Her coat was halfway off, and her eyes locked onto me with a kind of fury I hadn't seen in years. "You really filed the eviction?" she snapped. "Are you insane?" I didn't even look up from my phone. "You had the lease. You made your decision." "Seriously?" She stepped closer. "After everything I've done for you, you're just throwing me out?" I finally met her gaze. "Everything you've done for me?" I scoffed, setting the phone down. "You used me, humiliated me, and tried to turn people against me. If you think that counts as doing something for me, then, yeah, I'm throwing you out." She crossed her arms. "I was there when you were going through your divorce. I listened. I supported you. And now, what? I'm the bad guy?" "You were there," I said quietly, "because I let you be. I opened the door. You were crying, begging for a few weeks of space. I didn't know that meant turning my house into your playground for 3 years." She bit her lip, searching for something to throw back, but I didn't give her the chance. "You mocked me online, lied about me to our family, made a joke out of a boundary I had every right to set. You crossed that line, Skylar." She scoffed, eyes narrowing. "I'll go to the family. I'll tell them you kicked me out just to feel big." "Go ahead," I said, standing up, "but tell the whole story, or I will." She froze. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I continued. "I'm doing it to stop letting you hurt me." There it was. Truth, stripped bare. She stood there, blinking, her mouth slightly open but no sound coming out. The strength she always used to manipulate, the performance she leaned on, it faltered. Without another word, she turned and left. This time she didn't slam the door. 2 days passed, no noise, no Skylar. Then, just after lunch on Sunday, I got a text. "I moved out. Good luck, Lori." That was it. No apology, no thank you, no guilt trip. Just a final message like a receipt for 3 years of damage. I stood in the middle of my now quiet home. It felt larger somehow, like the walls had taken a breath, like the air had cleared after years of storm. I walked down the hall, passing the empty guest room, my room now again. I didn't rush to clean it. I didn't touch the space. I just let it sit, untouched, in its new quiet. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to justify anything. Not my choices, not my boundaries, not even the silence. I didn't cry, I didn't celebrate, I just sat on my couch and breathed. 1 week later, the house still felt a little too quiet, but this time, it was mine. I noticed it in the smallest ways. The silverware drawer was finally organized the way I liked it. No more mismatched mugs. No more makeup-stained towels left crumpled in the bathroom sink. Even the thermostat responded to my touch again, like it had been waiting for me to take back control. Every morning I woke to silence. No music thumping from the guest room, no slammed cabinet doors. Just bird song, filtered through open blinds I hadn't realized were closed for so long. Funny how peace can feel like grief when you're used to chaos. It wasn't that I missed her. I didn't. But I couldn't deny the echo she left behind. That ghost of routine, the way my ears still expected her footsteps or her dramatic sighs when she passed me in the hallway. I spent the weekend doing things I hadn't done in months. I rearranged the living room, shifted the couch so I could see the window better. I bought new sheets in soft blue, my favorite color, not hers. I cooked dinner for one and poured a glass of wine without worrying she'd come in to finish the bottle and leave the empty on the counter. Little victories, quiet wins. And still, every so often, I'd find something of hers tucked away. A hairbrush under the couch, a sock behind the dryer, her name still logged into a streaming app. I'd take a breath, delete it, toss it, move on. Closure isn't always a dramatic slam of the door. Sometimes it's a slow reclaiming, one drawer at a time. On Wednesday, Uncle Ellis stopped by. He didn't announce it, just knocked like he always had, a 12-pack of sparkling water in one hand, and a neutral smile on his face. He stepped inside, looked around, and gave a small nod. "Looks better already." We didn't talk about her right away. We didn't have to. He sat across from me on the couch, sipping his drink, glancing at the window like he was giving me space to start if I wanted to. I waited a while, then asked, "Do you think she'll be okay?" He didn't rush his answer, just scratched his jaw and looked thoughtful. "Eventually," he said, "but not until she figures out the world doesn't owe her a stage." I stared into my glass. Did I do the right thing? You didn't do the easy thing. That's not the same. We sat in silence for a while after that, and it wasn't awkward. It was grounding, like sitting in the eye of a storm that had finally passed. That night, I wandered through each room. I'd cleaned up most of what she left, but I hadn't touched her old room. Not really. I stood in the doorway now, arms crossed, looking at the blank walls and bare mattress. She hadn't taken everything, just the things she could carry. But it didn't matter. What lingered wasn't stuff. It was history, guilt, the echoes of every time I'd let her rewrite my role in her story. But now, that chapter was closed. I didn't hate her. I didn't wish her harm. But I couldn't carry her weight anymore. She wasn't my responsibility, not her drama, not her lies, not the way she clung to victimhood like armor. I was allowed to let go, even if it made me look cold, even if it meant being misunderstood. Because the truth is, I hadn't kicked her out to punish her. I'd done it to protect myself. She'd spent years painting me as the villain, as the uptight sister, the joyless landlord, the bitter divorcee. But I'd finally realized something. I didn't need to defend myself against her story. I just needed to write my own. Later that evening, I stood by the back door sipping tea. The sun was setting in soft golds, washing over the garden I hadn't touched in months. I made a mental note to pick up new plants, maybe lavender, something that could thrive quietly without stealing all the sunlight. A small notification pinged on my phone. It was an old photo someone tagged me in, me and Skylar years ago, arms slung around each other at a family barbecue. She was laughing. I was smiling, half distracted. I didn't untag myself. I didn't delete it. I just stared for a while, then let it fade back into the feed. We were sisters. That didn't change. But family doesn't mean allowing yourself to be erased, and silence doesn't mean surrender. Not anymore. You know, looking back, I used to think being a good sister meant being available, being understanding, being quiet. But I've learned something the hard way. Being quiet doesn't make you kind. It just makes you a target for people who think love comes with no boundaries. I didn't lose a sister in this story. I lost an illusion. That blood alone is enough. It's not. Respect, honesty, accountability, those are what build family. Without them, you're just roommates with matching DNA. If you've ever been made to feel guilty for drawing a line, if you've ever been called cold for choosing peace over pleasing people, you're not alone, and you're not wrong. This isn't a story about revenge, it's about reclaiming your worth. So let me ask you, have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace or keeping yourself intact? Did you speak up? Or are you still carrying the weight of silence? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, where are you watching from? If this story hit close to home, drop a 1 in the chat so I know I'm not alone. And if it didn't sit right with you, I want to hear that too. What would you have done differently? And hey, if this video made you think or feel anything real, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next story. We tell real ones here. For people who've lived through the gray areas. For people just like you. Take care of yourself. Take up space. And remember, saying no isn't rude. Sometimes it's survival.